Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion is called to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Griffey,
Here.
McCormick,
Present.
Bishop, Cantwell, Hairston, Casey,
Present.
Valencia, Santana,
Present.
Spencer.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
All right, thank you. First up, I'm going to ask if the guests, we always do guests first, and I know we have the Digital C groups here, so if they can come up and I'll read the ordinance as they make their way to the table. Ordinance number 585-2023, as amended by Council Members Casey, Hairston, and Griffin by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the Directors of Finance and Economic Development to enter into one or more agreements with Digital C for the deployment of a citywide broadband network and to provide related equipment and services to Cleveland residents, authorizing other agreements, and authorizing the appropriate director to apply for and accept any gifts, grants, or services from any public or private entity. I do want to read the amendments if we could. The amendments as stated are as follows. There is no legal objection to this legislation if amended as follows. In Section 2, Line 2, strike file number 585-2023-A and insert file number 585-2023-B. In Section 3, Line 2, after projects, strike or appropriate director. 3, in Section 6, Line 3, strike right-of-ways and insert right-of-way. In Section 8, Line 1, strike permit and insert permits. In number 5, in Section 9, Line 1, strike permit and insert permits, and strike right and insert rights. Number 6, strike Section 10 in its entirety and insert the following. Section 10, that the Director of Finance, Economic Development, or other appropriate director shall provide all members of council a quarterly report from Digital C concerning the effectiveness of the program by ward if available, and will include but not be limited to installation of networks and the results of optimization audits. Number 7, in Section 12, Line 1, strike the comma after law and add in Line 2, strike and such appropriate officials. Number 8, in Section 13, Lines 1 and 2, strike and any other appropriate director. This was done 9/21/23 by Vishnu Gaglani, Assistant Law Director. I will start by hearing from Councilman Casey, who I want to commend for leading a very lengthy process to kind of express how we got to this point, and then we'll hear a presentation from the administration, and then we'll move forth to questions from the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, this $20 million in ARPA funds were allocated under the old administration right at the end of their term. It landed in the laps of the new administration, went out for RFP. Digital C was chosen by the administration. A piece of legislation was put forth that we knew would not pass through the council. So we worked very diligently with Chief Davis and the Digital C team to make sure that the piece of legislation is tied to the term sheet of the legislation. The original term sheet we knew would not be well received by the council. So again, through some hard work and dedication of the administration and the council and the Utilities Committee, we came up with the new term sheet. The new term sheet was agreed upon by the administration as well as Digital C. And we also believe that the new term sheet does a very good job of protecting the public dollars that we received through the ARPA. And what's intriguing for our side of the table is that it's a performance-based metric, and that the dollars have to be earned in order to be allocated, which again will protect the public dollars, and it put the council at ease that we weren't always sure, and it's no surprise to Digital C, that we weren't overly receptive of the reputation of Digital C, but I believe that this piece of legislation will help them in their rebranding and with their reputation of being able to actually perform in the city of Cleveland. So with that being said, Mr. Chairman, this did pass to the Utilities Committee, and I would recommend that my colleagues support it as amended. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, please proceed with presentations.
Thank you, Chair. Through the chair to the committee here, really appreciate all the diligence that's gone into getting us to this point. Again, I'm Austin Davis. I'm here on behalf of the administration. It's been a 21-month process to provide you with the legislation we have before us. The end result is truly spectacular. It's one of the most aggressive performance-based contracts that we've seen here at this council. No dollars go out until results are provided. That's the end result here. The services provided are exceptional. 100 speeds, and our good friends at Digital C will get into this in this moment. 100 speeds, $18 a month, which is the equivalent of $216 a year here in the 216.
He tried to make a light
Yeah, it's,
joke with everybody.
Yeah, but Harsh came up with that.
yeah,
go
it's,
ahead. Go ahead.
we're proud of that number. But the gist is this is a deal, and it's going to live beyond any federal programs like the ACP, the Affordability Connectivity Program, which is a phenomenal program, but we strongly suspect we'll be running out of funds at some point in the next year. This $18 a month deal will be available to all Clevelanders for 5 years. Following that, can only be adjusted for inflationary reasons in the 5 years following. So we're going to lock this in, a great deal for Clevelanders, a phenomenal internet access speed for everybody here in the city. It counts on our support, but that support comes at limited risk because there's no money going out of our door until results are provided. Simple as that. I'll turn it over to our friends at Digital C to walk through their presentation.
Keep it down.
Okay, there it is. Okay, well, good afternoon to the council members of the Finance, Diversity, and Equity Inclusion Committee. My name is Joshua Edmonds, and it is my privilege and honor to sit in front of you all today as the Chief Executive Officer of Digital C. Digital C is a nonprofit technology social enterprise headquartered within the city of Cleveland. To the members of the Utilities Committee, I thank you for the hard work that your committee put forth to get this legislation to this point. To those council members who I have not yet met, I look forward to forging a relationship with you as I anticipate there will be opportunities to partner on this transformative work that will change the trajectory of Cleveland's digital future. With me today is our board chair, Lance Frew, who is the Chief Operating Officer of GBX, and I'll give it to Lance for Lance to introduce our members of our esteemed board. Oh, yeah.
Thank you from the chair to the committee. Pleasure to be here. Thank you again. Quickly, I'll introduce our board. We have James Fox, who is the Chief Administrator Officer of Parkwood. Joe Glick, who was with the Chief Operating Officer Office with Deutsche Bank. Currently, he is the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of Sequoia Financial here in town. Additionally, we have John Grimm, Jumpstart, CFO in residence. Yvette Itu with Greater Cleveland Partnership, Executive Vice President. John King, retired CIO of Lubrizol. Tanya Maness with Cleveland Neighborhood Progress, CEO and President. Felton Thomas with Cleveland Public Library, Executive Director and CEO. Chaz Withers, who is the CEO of Dixon Eaton. I myself am the Chief Operating Officer of GBX Group. That's the job that pays the bills. This one doesn't. If you don't know GBX Group, we have little over 24 buildings in Cleveland that we've developed, redeveloped, and operate over 1.5 million square feet of space. You may know our headquarters. It used to be the Daffy Dan building. He sold it to us because he knew we'd preserve it and invest in that area. Our developments along Superior ultimately led to Cross Country Mortgage, making Cleveland its home. So clearly the success of Cleveland is also GBX's success, and I hope our success is also the city's success. and that is our board. Boris. Yeah, Boris Mizell, my apologies, with Apple.
Thank you, Lance. And with me today, you'll see members of the table. So starting from my left and going to the right, we have Valerie Jerome, who's our Chief of Marketing and Communications, Jose Valdez, who's our Chief Operating Officer, Marlene Piatek, who's our Chief Financial Officer, Rolando Alvarez, who's our Director of Technology, LaDonna Norris, who's our Director of Community Outreach and Engagement, Roman Wakehead, who's our Director of Customer Operations. Behind me, we have Jalen Hollinger, who's our Director of People, Culture, and Success, as well as Sammy Sopko, who's our Director of Grants Development. So, Digital C's journey has been defined by growth, efficiency, and social impact. These values have helped us evolve from a nonprofit focused on digital skilling to a technology social enterprise poised to deploy the first of its kind citywide internet network connecting households to superior internet at an affordable rate and reach thousands of residents with digital skills training while maintaining a strong commitment to service. In recent months, we have undertaken significant initiatives. Through refined operations and growth, we have brought on board new talent and strategically revitalized our brand, giving Digital C a fresh and compelling identity. Moreover, we've invested in a robust customer relationship management system, a crucial tool that automates sales processes and enhances operational efficiencies. We have also taken various capacity-building measures, each carefully designed to propel us to achieve and overachieve our goals. Out in the field, our efforts are bearing fruit. In Ward 5's Phoenix Village, we have leveraged technology upgrades to provide residents with even faster internet speeds. Our commitment to reaching community has been unwavering, demonstrated through door-to-door engagement, block parties, targeted email communications, and collaborative efforts with local community development corporations. As a result, we are proud to report a noticeable increase in both our awareness and adoption. Presently, more than 35% of Phoenix Village households are Digital C customers, and this number continues to grow. Additionally, at Morningstar, near East 106 in St. Clair, we have executed a pilot site to showcase the technology plan for our citywide network deployment. This has not only met but exceeded our expectations, delivering exceptional speeds even in the face of challenging natural barriers such as heavy tree canopies. And a point on Morningstar, we did deploy that network late August, and by the end of this month, we'll have over 61 residents who are subscribed to the service. Now, that service reaches 600 households today. So in a month's time, we have 10% market penetration. And so the point on our reputation, heard, but I'll also say since November when I took over this organization, we've been prioritizing efficiency and delivering results, and our pilots are already demonstrating our results, and we're just getting started. Our dedicated network engineers are diligently working on additional sites like St. Augustine, Woodhill East, ensuring superior internet access at $18 a month. With the latest and greatest technology that solves for affordability without compromising quality, we are committed to serving every community in Cleveland. The key point is every. Historically, our industry has seen competitors deploy comparable speeds selectively, catering only to what they deem profitable markets while neglecting others. However, Digital C's commitment is phenomenal. We are here to serve every community in Cleveland equally, placing people over profits. Digital C goes beyond being an internet provider. We're also providing digital skills training that ranges from generating profiles for job applications to empowering individuals in an AI-driven world. Our mission is clear: deploy a state-of-the-art network to bridge the digital divide for good. Financial viability is our priority, alongside social impact through innovation and strategic partnerships. Investing in Digital C is investing in the city's future. Bridging the digital divide empowers citizens, fosters economic growth, and enhances quality of life. Today, I urge you to see Digital C as more than just another telecommunication organization seeking funding. We are a transformative force in our community, a social enterprise that prioritizes people over profits, equality over exclusion, and impact over complacency. By supporting Digital C, Cleveland City Council has the opportunity to be at the forefront of an initiative that will shape the future of our city for generations to come. Together, let us embrace the Digital C difference and make the resolute decision to invest in a brighter, inclusive digital future for all of Cleveland.
Okay, so we'll go into questions and answers. The first thing that I want to, ask is about the technology. Technology is, it changes very rapid, and this technology is not wired. I know that there are a lot of people moving towards cut the cord. However, tell me how this technology is going to be resilient enough in order to be sustainable, and how long do we anticipate for this technology to be resilient in the ever-changing market?
To the chair, thank you for the question. And for what we're building today, we know this is a moment that encapsulates many moments. And so we're not building something with obsolescence in mind. To be honest, when we said 100-100 in a wireless environment, many people doubted our ability to do that because that's so far into the future. You're not going to see cities doing 100-100 in a wireless standpoint. However, we already have 2 sites that are built to do that. And so I want to be very clear, our technology that we've already deployed is not technology that you're going to see in other markets today. We are already ahead of that curve. But I'm actually going to turn this over to our Chief Operating Officer, Jose Valdez, who's been leading the charge on the technology front.
Welcome to the chair. Our technology, just like Josh said, it is.
And please speak
not-
directly into
I'm
the
sorry.
microphone so
It
everybody
is
can
not
hear you.
dedicated for what we do today. It is mostly for what we're going to do in the future. It is sized to be not just 100-100. I mean, we've actually using and working on newer technology that will be fiber-like speeds. And that will take us into years and years out. Technology does change, but we will adapt as it changes as well. It's been proven, 3G to 4G to 5G, and we're no different than that. The 6 gigahertz that we are going to launch with will take us into a frequency that is not even being used today in the industry. We will be one of the first to actually deploy that, and it just shows our progress of what we're doing. So we feel very comfortable with what we're deploying for today and into the future.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Financial-wise, and I know that we are looking at a performance-based type of contract, and I want to make sure that we underscore this for the public. This was something that the administration, Digital C, and Council Casey, as our person representing the Utilities Committee, settled on to do a performance-based type of piece of legislation that will transition into a performance-based type contract. Is that correct?
To the chair, absolutely, yes.
Okay, so my follow-up question would be, if you guys don't hit those performance marks, or something happens where that happens, where you don't hit your performance measurements, then would that make costs go up for the residents that you already have under the program because you won't be able to expand? So those folks that you were able to sign up and you weren't able to meet your benchmarks, but they actually might fall short, and then you might have to increase costs. Is that a potential or possibility?
Through the chair, or to the chair actually, no, it's not a possibility. And I mean that no in a resolute fashion, where no, I do not envision a reality of us not meeting our goals. And no, should that reality that I don't envision happen, the consumer is not going to bear that weight. We're committed to $18. We're committed to 100-100, and we're committed to building out this network in 18 months. And 23,500 subscribers is the commitment that we have. And I am not letting the plan B distract us from the plan A. The plan A is to do everything we said we're going to do in the RFP, and we're committed to that.
Okay. The other thing I have is that in looking at some of your finances with the policy team, and I know that the policy team had an opportunity to look at some of the financial statements, and I know that there's some that they have not been able, that there's never going to be disclosure because we always want to be able to protect your franchise as we do our deliberations. But just want to understand a little bit about consultants. It seems like in the past that there's been several consultants or a lot of money put forth to consultants. I will tell you personally, I have a pet peeve when we fund organizations and then most of the money goes to consultants and other type of build out things and not actually go to the direct delivery of the service. So can you give us, or maybe your CFO, give us a percentage of how many consultants will be used through this, or a percentage of the amount of money that we give out of the $20 million that we're looking at allocating through a period of time? What percentage will be going to outside consultants?
To the chair, before our CFO answers that, since taking over, and I do want to highlight, we were able to have passage in the Utilities Committee on Thursday, and then there was a request to see our finances, for which we obviously opened up our doors in the spirit of transparency to cooperate with council to essentially help calm any concerns if there were any. And what we've been able to see during my tenure as CEO, I have already been prioritized reduction in what we paid for consultants. I'll actually say within my first 3 months, I was able to cut about 6 consultants and what we were working with them on. And then even through my tenure throughout this year, we're poised to save about $850,000 a year. Not to say that we were spending that all on consultants, but through strategic decisions and prioritizing internal work, that has already been a priority of mine. Because when I saw that too, as you can imagine, I'm looking through the past, I'm like, no, that's not how I work either. And so the point is absolutely heard. I would say that in the past, the attitude towards the consultants was really getting us to the point where we are today. You know, we were looking far and wide to figure out how to build this network to be able to meet the ever-evolving demands that Clevelanders have related to their digital experience. And so we threw out a lot of things, and we saw what stuck, and today we are the product of what was able to stick through that spending on the consulting side. But I will turn it over to our Chief Financial Officer, Marlene, to give us an estimate on the percentage.
To the chair. So going forward, we have very little going to consultants. What we will probably call the consortium, we'll book that as consultants in our financial statements, but they're not, consultants like you're thinking, like we're having somebody come in for marketing or anything like that. It would just be the training that they do as we're using the subcontractors, using them as subcontractors for that. Most other consultants have gone away, as Josh said. We have very few, I would say maybe $2,000 a month right now that's going to consulting.
Okay. Well, what really sold me on the point, Councilwoman Spencer, on that point?
Thanks, Council President. While we're on that, I wanted to, through our chair to the CFO, just clarify who is the consortium and what services are they providing?
So Joshua can to the chair, or through the chair to the councilwoman. Josh can give a little bit more detail on that, or our director of skills training. But they will be doing training, and I guess, yeah, Josh, answer this.
Yeah, so the consortium is a 27-member body. They're the ones who've been doing a lot of the work in Cleveland already. So when we think of like the digital equity consortium in the broader sense, there's 2 consortiums that are active in Cleveland. You have the Greater Cleveland Digital Equity Consortium, for which the Cleveland Foundation has been instrumental in standing that up. Then Digital C, through our efforts, we've been able to work with members such as ASC3, our Asbury Senior Community Center, Youth Opportunity Unlimited, the Cleveland Public Library. It's really just a group of community organizations, largely in part, that we will use their services on outreach, or if they're able to do training or the digital navigation work. It's really an extension of the community work that we already do in-house, but it allows us to have strength in numbers. And so I would say that it's not necessarily a consultant engagement in that way. That's much more of just an extension of the work that we're already doing.
Okay.
Thank you, Council President, for allowing me the point.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Davis, who was on the review panel? And how did you guys make sure that it was no conflicts of interest? Because I know that there were questions up, but who were the 5 or so people on the review panel? And how did you guys make sure you vetted that there were no conflicts of interest or anything?
To the chair. Our review panel consisted of myself, Chief Abenama of Finance, Chief Fernando of ITS, Leon Wilson of the Cleveland Foundation. Ricardo Reynoso joined the city, passed our scoring, but we bounced ideas off of him as we came to this conclusion. For the city employees, no one had any connections to any ISPs or any of the telecoms, so no conflicts of interest. Leon Wilson I'd like to call him the godfather of a lot of digital equity work here in the city. He is a local and a national expert on digital equity, and it's a tough, complicated field, and we're a tough, complicated region. So we go to the expert on that kind of thing. He's given grants through the Cleveland Foundation to all of the ISPs. He works with them every day, and he had firewalls up while we were doing our scoring. I believe he used to be Joshua's boss a decade ago, and now Joshua is the CEO of Digital C, but Leon Wilson was not part of that Digital C conversation when they were picking their CEO. and he wasn't part of Digital C in any capacity when we used him as a scorer.
So basically, you had subject matter experts outside of not just internal to the city. And if it's my recollection, you actually were formerly with the FCC, right?
In law school, I'd done some work with the former FCC chair. But
Okay.
thank you for remembering that.
So you do have some background dealing with this. So basically, it wasn't like we didn't have internal and external experts looking at the efficacy of the equipment, of the process, and everything else.
That to the chair, that's right. And I'll just say at the end of the day, this is a strong term sheet that keeps us secure at the,
Okay.
when we get down to it.
Well, and I just want to say this because I do want to caution all of the body. There has been a tremendous amount of calls on all sides advocating for and against Digital C, which is always something that makes us do our due diligence to really make sure that we try to protect the taxpayers at the end of the day. But this was a tough one to try to pull across because there's not the best history. I actually had a great conversation with Mr. Edmonds about the track record of the former Digital C was not the most stellar. I forget what the name was. I think it was One or something. It was One Community. Yeah. So it's been a lot of challenges in the past, and people really have legitimate concerns on delivery. I mean, even to this point, there's some council people that still need to be convinced. I won't sugarcoat that. I will tell you one of the things that, to my colleagues that helped me in my deliberations, is that I think Councilman Casey did a yeoman's job to really protect the taxpayers along with the administration and Digital C by putting a metrics-based type of piece of legislation in place that we do have some fail-safes in place. And let's be honest, not all of the funders were very happy. I've gotten calls even as late as yesterday because some are saying, hey, we're taking a risk, we're jumping, and I know that there are other entities, and I won't state who they are, that are more poised to take some other risk than us with taxpayer dollars. So we're very, very cautious, and I think Councilman Casey has given us a pretty good product, and I'm willing to back that. But I also would tell you what has sold me is that there is a significant commitment from people that I've talked to at other levels of government as well as other private institutions that are going to double down and help, magnify this money, which is one of the things we've always wanted to do with ARPA as well, is to make sure that if we're putting our money in, where are there other dollars, and who else is going to help stand up the dollars that we're putting out there. So there are some other commitments. Quite frankly, I'm not at liberty to say with a couple of them, but definitely there are several foundations and also government entities that are looking at coming in and supplementing this investment as well, okay? I do have Majority Leader McCormick, and then whoever we need to go to after this, okay? Councilman Polinsky, Councilman McCormick, then Polinsky. Casey, close us out.
Hopefully Digital C can give us some advice on our wireless mics that we're, I think, getting soon, I believe, so. Mr. Chairman, I guess I'm the chairman at the moment. Thank you all so much for being here today, and really appreciate the team from Digital C being here. And I think we all understand and agree and are aligned on the need to get Clevelanders affordably connected to high-quality internet. And I think that is why we're here today. And I think, again, it's been great to see the evolution of Digital C, all the good stuff going on. But I'll be very just clear. Our residents don't really care about who's doing it. They need to have affordable internet that works, right? No matter who it is. At the end of the day, if our residents flip on that internet and it works well and it's an affordable price, no matter who's providing it, that's a win. On the opposite of that, even if we've got a great organization and it doesn't provide that service, then it's a fail. So I think that it's good to see that everyone's kind of focused on those results. I think that's going to be critically important. And I'll just work a little bit, Council President, and I've gotten some phone calls too, but for the first time in a long time, we have a city council that I think is really interested in pursuing tough questions, and I know not everybody in Cleveland is used to that. But I think it's a good thing for our democracy that you have a legislative body that's actually pushing on questions. So I'll put that not for folks at this table, but into the ether for some of those phone calls that I've received as well. So I've got a few quick questions I hope that folks can answer, and excited to move forward on this. The question of infrastructure, right? So it's my understanding that every single Cleveland household has access to plug into internet today? If that is the case, why would we go an approach of overlapping with new infrastructure in the city?
And through the chair to the councilperson, from the administration's perspective, we were infrastructure agnostic. We just cared about the cost and quality of service to those residents. If that can be provided through current infrastructure or requires new infrastructure, we just care about how much it costs the resident and making sure that the service works. So that's where we ended up. This was the most cost-effective, highest quality service service plan that we were able to look at. And I'll turn to Joshua if he has any further questions.
Yeah, through the chair to the councilman. When we look at the coverage from a map standpoint, I'll say that there's a conversation that exists here, and then we get into on the ground, we start knocking on doors. It's a completely different conversation now. Now you have people saying, well, I only can get 20 megs over here, and yeah, they might say that I got this, but I can't get this service over here. And so what's reported versus the lived reality on the ground, there is a delta between, and this is a program that is going to address that delta. Now, it depends on who you talk to, because a lot of people will say, for whatever reason, that we do have the coverage, and I do agree that the majority of Cleveland does have coverage. I do agree in that. Now, when we get into the reality of the situation, can people afford that coverage? That's a different story. And if we have a subsidy that's put in place where they can afford it today, where there is no shelf life beyond a year for that program, well, then we are now avoiding a now what conundrum. And so our infrastructure by design is built for the future, but it's rooted in affordability. Because we know overnight, we have a third of our residents roughly living in poverty here. We know that. And so if we have a plan that is superior infrastructure and deployment, but is already built for cost, then what we've done is we've now taken the infrastructure argument and we've dismantled it properly. And now we've put Digital C within that delta of what is reported versus the lived reality on the ground.
I appreciate that, and I'll tell you that I also experience that lived reality on what I pay for and what I get, so I'll just leave that there. But through the chair to Mr. Davis, too, I mean, obviously I wasn't a part of the selection, but, thinking about is there a way to focus on a contract, for example, on affordability and education? I'm just trying to dig into this issue that's been out there about why are we putting in new infrastructure when it already exists? Focus on education and affordability. And so, I mean, was that a part of the conversation? Again, I was not privy to any of those conversations that were had.
Sure. Through the chair of the councilperson, definitely part of the conversation. The focus, I think it's fair to say that we didn't receive another proposal that would guarantee that every Cleveland resident, regardless of income level, regardless of means, could afford a low-cost, high-quality internet plan. Different attempts at making it or reaching that point with different trade-offs, but what we were looking for, what was very clear from Councilman Casey in the beginning, was the only thing that would work for the city, and of course we agree with this, is it had to be universal. Every single Clevelander had to get it. At the same price, not distinguishing between their means or incomes. And that the current infrastructure that exists was not going to be providing that plan, full stop. It's if we want every Clevelander to receive this high-quality, affordable service, we weren't looking for new infrastructure, we weren't not looking for new infrastructure, but it ended up being new infrastructure is what was required to get there.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and I'll just, side note too, one of the things we have one internet provider in my ward for the majority of my ward, so I know that folks are interested in some competition as well. Tell me about this wireless technology. I made the fatal mistake of, for 2 weeks, going to a wireless technology. It starts with a T and ends with an ill. I'll let you, figure out the rest of that. And it was like not having internet. It was so bad that I went back to the provider I was at before. I know this is different, but can you give me the 30 seconds to a minute on the wireless technology and ensuring that it is high quality?
It's through the chair, and I'll turn this over to the technology experts in a moment, but I will say that the same provider submitted an application through the RFP process for scores for speeds that were ineligible for what we were looking for. It was all but an NA because it could not hit the minimums that we were looking at through this RFP process. So on paper, I have seen, I think, what you experienced in real life, and we also rejected it.
So the new technology, though, how do we ensure that the wireless technology is not affected? And to our director here, you talked about some of the challenges around canopy and other things like that. So how do we make sure that again, at the end of the day, when I'm your first customer, when this goes through, that the internet, that's coming through a wireless capacity is high quality.
Through the chair to the councilman, thank you for the question, and also thank you for using the till service. I'm not going to ask the follow-up question because I really can't, but I'm going to be curious to see what speeds you signed up for. But for us, there's been a strong, diligent part on our part to ensure that this stuff works, where this isn't a lip service engagement with you all. We wanted to be able to deploy the technology already where there was a heavy tree canopy. We know where the heaviest tree canopy is in Cleveland. It's in Glenville. We knew that. Biggest trees all around, and we went there because we said, no. We want people to see that. So we actually did invite out the Utilities Committee, and Chairman Casey actually did come out, as well as Councilman Harsh, to actually see our deployment in the Glenville neighborhood to see if we were able to reach those speeds. And so I would say it's not one thing for us to say what we plan on doing, it's what we're already doing. We made sure that we worked with Tirana. They are an incredible vendor. You're going to hear a lot more about them throughout the country as they're able to build and deploy on reaching the speeds that we need to reach. We already started working with them, so much so that our team internally is able to deploy that technology. And so the deployments that we've been able to do, where we are reaching 100 with significant tree canopies present, we've already been able to do that. So it's not an aspirational thing for us. It's really just extending the work that we've already been able to do in the heaviest conditions of trees.
Got it. Thank you. And for clarification, the service I was with was not you guys. It was another major corporation. I want to clarify that. Okay. And Mr. Chairman, and I know that there's been a lot of deep conversation around it, so I'll ask just the direct question. I'm pretty confident that the major players in the internet will be around in 10 years. So to our residents, to the taxpayers, what is your message on ensuring that, again, it seems like you've done a lot of great work, you've got a great team, but how do you ensure our residents that you guys are going to be around and thriving in 10 years?
To the chair, I don't know why I forgot that. Through the chair to the councilperson, I think in several ways. One, we're headquartered here. We don't have eyes anywhere else. We're committed to Cleveland. And in our commitment to Cleveland, it's in our DNA to service Clevelanders. And when things weren't the rosiest, as you are talking about our reputation, and again, I would say a successful business isn't built off of successes, it's actually built off of failures. And we have been able to actually build our entire team, our entire identity off of Cleveland. We are the underdog. We know that. We're seeing two massively large corporations who are already here with internet service than other ones who are on the periphery on the wireless front. We see that, but we also look at Digital C as a necessary market correction. You said it yourself, you only have one provider. It sounds like there needs to be a competition and correction here. And we know that not every Clevelander is going to take our service, but our commitment to Cleveland is one where this digital, and until there's a digital divide that's bridged, we're here. And even after that digital divide is bridged, we're here. Our commitment to Cleveland has been the same since its inception, and it's only strengthened as we go citywide. And so to the Clevelander who's watching this, we look forward to earning their business in perpetuity. We don't look forward to earning their business in 5 years, 10 years. We look forward to earning it in perpetuity. And as we continue to develop and advance into our internal R&D, we look forward to even earning their children's businesses, their grandparents' businesses. We want every single person in this city at some point to look at Digital C as an ally and as a provider that they can count on.
I appreciate that. Mr. Chairman, I'll just say that, again, pending the support of this panel, I look forward to having a nonprofit provider. I think, we're having a conversation about public banking now, too, and I think about it along the same lines. If we can get high-quality internet provision that is not shareholder-based, but that is more people-based and nonprofit-based, I'd be much happier that my money went there on a monthly basis as a city resident than elsewhere. So wish you all the luck. I know that we'll be, through Utilities Committee, continuing to work with you on this. But I really hope and wish and am excited to see this get up and running and our folks can get high-quality, affordable internet as we know it's desperately needed. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Mike Polensek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, my honorable colleagues, and to the representatives that are here from our organization, which to be Anointed, I guess that's the best way to describe it. Anointed is our internet provider. First of all, I want to thank Councilman Casey again for the work that he did on reviewing Digital C's application and presentation, and the amendments that were made not only by him but other members of the body or the Utilities Committee as well, and their engagement. And I too have been, as I indicated at the committee, I too have been in receipt of numerous phone calls and maybe a half a dozen emails, raising concerns and questions, et cetera. So based on the amendments that were made at the table, I wholeheartedly support those, and I plan to vote for this in support of this today. But I think, again, you need to know there are people out there who don't believe you can deliver. I mean, let's be very blunt at the table, as I always am. There are people who don't believe you can deliver. So the proof will be in the pudding. And so I would say to those naysayers that you have an opportunity to prove them wrong. So whether it be the anonymous letters we got in the mail, which I understand that I have my own opinion about anonymous information, letters or phone calls. But for those who are questioning your capabilities, you have an opportunity to prove them wrong and to deliver for the residents that we talk about at this table so often, low-income working families, people who are on fixed incomes, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to just state that for everybody. There's no question here. The eyes of Texas are on you. We're going to be looking at this very closely. And again, the amendments that were made, shepherded by Councilman Casey, reinforces, I think, some of those question marks that are still lurking out there. So again, on that note, I plan to support this based on the due diligence of the Utilities Committee and the chair of the committee, and hope that you truly can deliver. Because I've heard a lot of promises around this table in my time here, and unfortunately, some of them were never delivered upon. And so I'm looking forward for you to delivering. And we're going to learn that very quickly. We're going to know approximately, in my opinion, please correct me if I'm wrong, we're going to know within a year of your capabilities to deliver. So on that note, Mr. Chairman, I plan to vote for the legislation.
All right, thank you so much. Go ahead, Mr. Edmonds.
Through the chair to the councilman, when I became CEO of Digital C, I knew what Digital C represents. When the letters don't surprise me. To be honest, that's part of the territory, and I'm actually thankful that they're doing it. Awareness is one of our opportunities for growth. So the more that they fan the flame saying we can't do something, the more it allows us to really tell that true Cleveland underdog story. We know that the eyes of Texas, as you put it, are on us. I contemplate and I think through that every single night. I was thinking through it last night. I'm thinking through it tonight too. And I think the one thing I'll express to everybody is we look forward to earning this opportunity. And we're going to earn that every single day. We're not earning it just at the table. When we go out into the neighborhoods, we're going to earn the respect and we're going to earn the business of the residents who desperately do need an affordable correction in Cleveland and the telecommunications industry. And so our mentality internally, we're not celebrating anything just yet. Even with the hopeful passage of this today, we know we have a long road ahead of us, but I have an incredible team that's present here, people who are in the stands who are watching, who have been supporters since the very beginning. And I think that the mentality you're seeing here is we're ready to earn this opportunity and earn the business of Clevelanders.
Okay. And my last comment, Mr. Chairman, is obviously this is the administration's recommendations. So your credibility is on the line as well. And I want to say that again. The administration's credibility is on the line as well. This is who you recommended. This is who you advocated for. So you have as much skin in the game as they do. And I learned here a long time ago, you don't want to get rug burn, okay? So make sure that the performance is there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Administration.
Through the chair, we agree with Councilman Polensek. Councilman, through the chair to the councilman, you are right, we own this. We proudly own it. We're very excited about the potential here. We also have a contract being developed that makes us feel very secure. And any risk that we think we're taking, the fact that we're not paying until results are delivered makes us sleep better at night. But we agree, and we understand.
All right, and I'm glad that you said that because oftentimes people like to come back to council, and one thing I tell everybody is that we're not the digital experts. And there was a process that had subject matter experts, internal and external. This is what they came up. I'm curious to see how Digital C did fare and do better. I know that there's been other things in the past that people have liked about Digital C, like the workforce component, the digital literacy component. There's some of us that would have liked to seen those broken out so that it probably would have given us a better chance of having who could do those the best complement each other. However, it didn't happen that way as it came through. Once again, I want to respect and say that Councilman Casey, I think, has done a yeoman's job, and I know that there were some amendments put forth. He and I have met this morning, and he's recommended against trying to add any other additional amendments because he's felt that everybody has come together and agreed on the process of moving forward and doesn't want to tinker with that. So one thing I do is I try to work with my chairs to, if I'm going to give them a jacket to wear, I'm going to let them wear the jacket. So Councilman Polensek, you're exactly right. You guys have brought this to us. We're doing our job of vetting this. We vetted it for a significant period of time, and now it's time for us to figure out if we're going to move forward. Councilman Hairston.
Thank you, Mr. President. To my colleagues, thank you for your comments. Very well said. All of the things that, I'm glad we're at this point, right? So I can not receive these communications anymore, right? I'm sure we all have. I've been out and passing it. Matter of fact, can I talk to you about something? And I'm just like, not today. But, it is very real what members are saying about the calls for and against that we have received for this proposal here. But we're here, and thank you, Councilman Casey, for his work along with the Utilities Committee for the work that they've done to get us to this point that we are here today. And really, I think we owe a thank you to our former mayor and his administration, Frank Jackson administration, President Kelly, and now our President Blaine Griffin, who saw fit to even set this money aside for us to even be here and for other folks to participate and by adding other dollars in to support this effort. It was their will and their forward thinking that got us here. And so I'm sure they're not listening, but thank those folks who helped us get here today. I just want to make sure I'm clear, and I know that I've been made aware of the amendments that the Utilities Committee has put forward, but the $18 a month fee that's going to be charged, so is that going to stay fixed, and for how long? Through the chair.
Through the chair to the councilperson, yes, it is going to stay fixed. That's a fixed 5-year minimum requirement, $18 a month. After that, for the next 5 years, it can only nudge up at the rate of inflation. So marginal increases, hopefully, 2% by that point.
Okay.
So marginal.
All right.
We're looking at a 10-year affordability plan here.
Okay, got it. So it will stay 5 years, and it'll only go up based on inflation after that.
And I don't want to speak for my colleagues at Digital C, there's no commitment to increasing after 5 years.
No, through the chair to the councilman, and first, it's an honor to meet you at the table here. I'll say, let's hope that we have an economy where the inflation adjustment is no inflation adjustment. And I think that's our desire. We don't want to actually increase this rate. 18 times 12, it being 216. We want to keep it there too, for a variety of reasons, even through our marketing and branding. So inflation actually makes things more expensive for us. Our commitment is $18. And as long as we can do that $18 commitment with inflation floating around in however way, this is easily a conversation 5 years beyond from now. But our commitment is $18. Even after the 5 years, the commitment is $18.
Got it. Okay. I just want to be clear on that, because some folks have asked me, and I said that's a good question. So let me make sure I ask that question, and that is put out here today on record that is the commitment made by the group here. And lastly, I was looking at your board slide here, and can someone talk to me about the? Can you go back to the board slide? The board slide here. What is the plan to make this board more diverse? Can someone on the team share that with me? Is there a plan to help diversify this board here? Because I'm concerned what I'm looking at.
Through the chair to the council person, absolutely. Trust me, when I walked into this board, I saw it too. I'll be honest. I've been looking at this, prioritizing needs versus things I need to do. Absolutely. So it hasn't been a year yet since I've been CEO. However, since the very beginning, I knew I needed to turn around this organization. There were things I needed to do internally to ensure that I had the right people in place and the right plan for us to be able to execute. So I did issue rebalances. I did also at the same time, outsource some key functions that allowed us to save money too. And as we navigate through this opportunity in front of us with the RFP, the board is a part of that conversation as well. And so there is a plan in place. Lance is our board chair who has been on the record, and Lance, I will be honest
Right,
here,
Lance.
who has said numerous times to me, I don't want to be your board chair. There's other opportunities. He wants to stay on the board, but he has himself said that, and we have prioritized diversifying our board. Our board is in black and white, but yeah, you get it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Edmonds, CEO Edmonds, for that. That's important. As the former mayor, Frank Jackson, would say, is that it's a difference to know of a neighborhood versus understanding the neighborhood, right? And I think that is true, especially when we're talking about closing the digital divide, right? Making sure that these neighborhoods that are in poverty, these neighborhoods that you just don't have access to fast and reliable and high quality internet services, but you have to know that neighborhood to understand that, right? I think that lends to the work that Digital C intends to do, right? Because you get it, you understand it, and you may have once lived that in those neighborhoods as well, right? And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that other folks can't understand it, right? But it hits different when it's somebody who truly understands and who maybe have experienced those issues that folks are experiencing now, or who still may live in those conditions, right? All 17 of us live in the neighborhoods. We don't live in the suburb, right? We don't live outside the city limits. We're 17 of us. We're in the city. We're in these neighborhoods, some of which some people will say are not good neighborhoods, right? But we are committed to these communities and want to see them thrive. And it's very important to have folks who understand these neighborhoods to help you all continue your mission and take you to the next level. So thank you.
Through the chairs to the councilman, one of the points that I can index on that is a point of pride for us, over half of our organization lives in the city of Cleveland as well. And so for us, when we're going out door knocking, we say that we're neighbors connecting neighbors now. And so, I tell the story, now it's 2 weeks ago, I was out in Glenville doing some door knocking to making sure that people saw that, hey, this is me. My face is on this collateral. And during that door knocking, there was a older man who had locked his keys in his car, and he couldn't reach, but he had the window cracked, and I was able to kind of get in there. Then afterwards, he said a prayer for me in the middle of the street. And the fact that he felt so inclined to do that, this is a familial exchange at this point. And I don't want that familial interaction just to stop within Digital C. I want that to be something that our board can enjoy too, that they can go out knocking on these doors, that they are also Cleveland residents too. Because the board plays a unique role, as you know, in presiding over Digital C, but existing with us as well.
That's right.
And there is a commitment for us to ensure that we're leaving no stone unturned, and that there are opportunities for people in this city to actually be able to preside over something that, let's be honest, is one of the most innovative things that we've been able to do as a city in recent years. And I want to make sure that people in Cleveland have that opportunity to preside over this as well.
Absolutely. Synergy between the board and the staff is important, right? I mean, that is very, very important when we're talking about the success. And we're talking about this 20 million plus to 10 from a foundation. I don't know if I was supposed to say that, but other money is coming from other places, all together, and trying to deliver what we all want to see happen, is very, very important. And my last point, Mr. Chair, and I'll end with this. Did you make sure that was his car that you got those keys out of? All right, Mr. Evans, I'll leave it there. Thank you.
All right. Do we have any other questions regarding this Digital C? Any other questions? Since we don't have any other questions for Digital C, I will tell you that, during the pandemic, Digital C worked very closely with me to try to serve the Fairfax community. So we did have some hit and misses. The one thing I really appreciated was the outreach. I also appreciated the fact that they were also in the process of training a workforce. So I do hope that you are also still maintaining that workforce component because that was another important thing, that you are actually teaching residents and teaching folks how to do the installation, how to make sure they do the maintenance and other things, because that's an opportunity for workforce. So I hope that we can figure out how that looks as well at some point in time.
Well, through the chair, to the chair, absolutely the workforce part, again, as I even said with the board part, where this is a unique opportunity to be a part of this, I don't want to deprive anyone of this. I want every Clevelander, wherever there's an avenue for them to be a part of this, whether they're a customer or they're doing an installation or they're a partner knocking doors with us, I want to open that as much as possible. And I can mention that we have been able to have conversations with Tri-C in particular as it relates to our workforce challenges and needs with respect to the installation of this network as well. And so we actually want to formalize this beyond. So just know that that work was not done in vain. It does actually exist, and we're looking to actually formalize that to provide more opportunities for Clevelanders to engage in this on the workforce front.
Okay, thank you so much. Councilman Casey, close us out.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, when this came to us, it was $20 million, and let's just give it to Digital C. Then it was $20 million, break it down, $13 million for infrastructure, $7 million for providing internet, to what we have here today. And one of the things that I was always adamant about was that it was a service that had to be throughout the whole city of Cleveland. So from North Collinwood to West Park to Lee Harvard to Old Brooklyn to the lake, everybody in the city of Cleveland, if Digital C is successful, will be able to have affordable internet for $18 a month, at least for the next 5 years. And that was very important to us. And even the better thing about it is that we're so protected with this piece of legislation. So I want to thank Digital C for being willing to meet us, I'll say, in the middle, and the administration as well. So this was a good collaboration, and it's kind of one of the highlights of my career for getting this passed the way we did. So I just want to thank everybody who was involved, and again, I ask for the support from the rest of the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Casey. And I know you worked very hard over your summer vacation to work on this, so really appreciate it, and thank you so much. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 585-2023 as amended stands approval to be heard by the full body tonight. Look forward to seeing you gentlemen this evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next up is ordinance number 690-2023 as amended by council members Casey, Hairston, and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Finance of Economic Development to enter into a tax increment financing agreement with Hawthorne Elementary Partners, LLC, and/or its designee to assist with the financing of the Hawthorne Elementary School project to be located at 3575 West 130th Street, to provide for payments to the Cleveland Metropolitan School District and declare certain improvements to real property to be a public purpose. Sir, introduce yourself and. Sure. Point of order by Councilman Majority Leader McCormick.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. The city's new economic development director's first day is today.
Right here. Where's
He's sitting right there.
Tom, come on up here.
Come on
while I
up,
read
Tom.
this. I was wondering where he went. I was like, hold on. Well, I'm going to read the amendment while we're doing that. He's the new Economic Development Director. So before we introduce Tom and we go through this process, I'll read the amendment, and it says there is no legal objection to this legislation if amended as follows. 1, in the second whereas clause, strike lines 3, 4, and 5 in their entirety and insert street for purposes of future redevelopment. D, dated August 29, 2023, AFN number 202-308-202-48, authorize the property to be conveyed to Hawthorne Elementary Partners, LLC, or its designee. Deed dated August 29, 2023, AFN number 202-308-290-249, and that is the amendment. So, once again, as Councilman McCormick just so alluded to, we have a new Economic Development Director, and we'll give him an opportunity to introduce himself. I know a lot of us are familiar with him, but Mr. McNair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do believe I know all of you sitting up here relatively well, but Tom McNair, for the first time, saying not the Executive Director of Ohio City Incorporated, but the new Director of Economic Development for the City of Cleveland. I am extraordinarily excited to be starting today, working my way through the process, and very much looking forward to working with all of you in this new capacity, so thank you.
All right, thank you.
I have a question.
We do.
Quick question.
You want to do
just as an
question?
Introduction.
Sure, go ahead.
Welcome, Tom. So really quick, when could council members call you for a meeting? Just saying.
Thank you, Councilwoman. It is actually on my agenda today to be reaching out to each of you to set up a time to get together, so as soon as you would like.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Councilman Pelisi?
You know?
Is anybody here from CMSD? I do not know or think so. And I think this is one of those old CMSD buildings. Okay. So it's nobody here from, so it already has been transferred. It's already been transferred. And this is pretty routine that they have done this through several other buildings like that too. But anyway, please proceed. Mr. Joshua Rosen?
Well, thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. I know many of you have heard about the Hawthorne Elementary project through other committee meetings. So I'll just be very brief and just say we're really excited about this. This is a $14.9 million project, and it has 10 partners in it, which I think demonstrates how complex these middle neighborhood projects are and the collaborative nature that is needed in order to make these projects happen. So really quickly, just to hear, the Sewer District, Cleveland Development Advisors, Old National Bank, the Ohio Finance Fund, Cuyahoga County, the City of Cleveland Community Development and Economic Development, Federal Historic Tax Credits, State Historic Tax Credits, Developer Equity for My Company, and the State of Ohio Department of Development, all are part of the capital stack to make this sort of project work. I thought that was just worth noting here today. The Community Development and Economic Development Departments have been excellent to work with as this project has taken a number of twists and turns over the last couple of years, but we're really happy to be here today, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Rosen. From the administration, are there any opening comments before we kick it off?
Thank you. My name is Conrad Metz in the Economic Development Department. I've been the project manager for Hawthorne Elementary Partners, LLC. And my only comments are to reintroduce Josh Rosen because this is an excellent presentation.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, turning over to our Chairman of Development Planning and Sustainability, Councilman Hairston. Has this been vetted by your committee?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This has been heard and vetted by the DPNS committee for a second time.
All right.
You know, as we hear TIFs, we first have the chain of title, then we come back and we actually do the TIF piece itself. And there was support for the chain of title. There was more support for the TIF as well. The interim director, Terry Hamilton Brown, did provide us a slide that looked at the TIF, the amount of the TIF, looked at the deliverables as it relates to our investment within the project, and that was very helpful to us. It may be on the last slide. Yep, there we go. So, very helpful document to our new director. I indicated to the interim director that I wanted to see something like this each time a TIF application comes to us so that way we can be able to have a full picture of what the deliverables would be as it relates to the project itself. All right? I know this is a priority for Councilman Casey and his neighborhood, who is excited about seeing this project come to light. And, you know, when it's done, I hope I get an invitation to a ribbon cutting. Now, some sit here and say that, and I never get it.
And they
right?
never give them one.
And we never get it.
I promise.
But
They say that too, though. They say they promise too.
That's right. I'm counting on our buddy here, Councilman Casey, to make sure I come, view the renovated building here. As the president indicated, and our vice chair indicated, that there's many sites like this across the city that's going through the same process, east and west. And this is one of few that we've seen. We've seen some already. This is another one that we've seen, and we expect to see many more come before us as well. All right? See no further. I have no objections, and I ask the committee for approval.
Thank you, Councilman Hairston. And I was going to turn over to Councilman Casey. This is in your ward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, this is overly exciting for the neighborhood. This is the first housing project of its kind in the far west side of Cleveland in more than 27 years. So to take this building that's been sitting abandoned for more than 10 years, right about 10 years, to see the conversion that's going to happen is just overwhelming. And it's very exciting for the neighborhood, and we can't thank Josh and his team enough for taking a chance on the neighborhood because it's not a market that sees a lot of development like this, but he sees the vision like we do. So we want to personally thank him. And even though I'm not the TIF supporter on council, this is the project this is the type of project that I do believe a TIF needs. It's a smaller developer doing a relatively, I guess, compared to some of the other projects around the city, a relatively small job, but it's huge, but the impact will be huge in the neighborhood. So I would ask my colleagues to please support this, and we're looking forward to cutting that ribbon and then giving Councilman Hairston a tour through once it's all over. Thank you.
All right, do we have anybody else?
Very briefly, Mr. Chairman, I want to also lend my support to this legislation. Josh has done a lot of projects in Ward 3. Excited to see him do stuff elsewhere in the city as well. Agree with Councilman Casey. These are developers that live in the city of Cleveland. They are very local, and they do a really good job. So these are the types of folks I think we need to be encouraging more and supporting more, our local folks who live in our neighborhoods, understand our neighborhoods, know how to invest in our neighborhoods. So I just wanted to lend my support. Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Palencic.
Mr. Chairman, my honorable colleagues, and I want to go on record in support of this project because they're so critical, but I also want to state for the record as well to the new director, and I haven't had the pleasure to work with him. The CMSD still has its share of abandoned buildings, what I call demolition by neglect, sitting throughout the city. So I hope this is something that we can engage in a more serious discussion with them. I'm looking at the former Iowa Maple that just sits there rotting away in the Glenville neighborhood, which they should have never closed to begin with, but there it sits, and no game plan to deal with it. But I also want to add this, Mr. Chairman, and again, I welcome, with my colleagues, welcome you aboard, but I want to just say this from a historical perspective. Economic development used to be one of the most important departments in this city, and it has shrunk in size and effectiveness over the last almost 2 years now. And so you inherit a department that is nowhere what it used to be. So I believe all members of this body are here to work with you, but you need more people, and you need competent people over there, because our number one, the number one responsibility of your department should be job creation and job maintenance, maintaining jobs in this city and creating jobs in this city. And with this present staff you have some very competent people there, but you don't have enough. And we're all experiencing this. We have small businesses, we have other medium-sized businesses that need help, and they're not getting it. So I just need to say that for the record. This is a revenue-producing department, and you do not have the help and manpower and women power that you need over there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 690-2023 stands approved. And Tom, welcome, and good luck with your project, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
All right. Next up, we have the Bedrock guest, and I believe is, are we going to have Chief Davey from the administration. I know Chief Abu Nama had to leave, but if the Bedrock folks could join us.
Is there anybody from the administration?
I know Chief Abu Nama had to go take care of something on emergency, and Chief Davey was supposed to be coming over. Here's what I'll do. Let's start the presentation, and I'll just introduce our two guests, and then we'll see if Chief Davey or somebody from the administration will be here, because I know Chief Abu Nama had to leave, okay? Two people who probably need not a lot of introduction. They're very familiar with a lot of us, but if they can introduce themselves, and then please proceed with the presentation.
Good afternoon, President Griffin and Vice Chair McCormack and members of the committee. My name is Nadia Sisay. I am the Chief Community Growth Development Officer for Bedrock.
Got it.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Deb Janik with Bedrock. Joined Bedrock, as many of you know, January of 2022, and appreciate the opportunity to be in front of the Finance Committee today.
And former Chief of Staff, I just want to know if Mike Palencia was nice to you back in the day when you were the Chief of Staff.
Mr. Chairman, to the councilman, he has always been a pleasure to work with.
Ms. Janik was a former Chief of Staff for, I believe, Ms. Campbell, but she also was very active in the former White administration, if I'm correct. Okay,
That's right,
you.
Mr. Chairman.
All right, so please proceed with the Bedrock Master Development Agreement.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The actual first few slides of the presentation,
She had a clicker.
Oh, thanks. Mr. Chairman, are the presentation materials that CFO Ahmed Abednaba was going to go through. As we're waiting to see if Chief of Staff Davey joins us, would it be okay with you if I went to our slides and
Go
came
to
back?
your slides, and then we'll go back to theirs.
Great.
There he is.
Let's just let him go smooth into it since he's here. So,
Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
thank you. So he'll need the clicker. And are these on the tablets?
I do.
So these are also on the tablets, if anybody would like to look at your tablet.
Great.
All right, Chief, please proceed.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Chief Abanama had a personal emergency. I'm going to do my best to fill in his stead. By doing so, I'm going to ask my colleague to spend a little bit of time going through today's slide, and I'll do my best to fill in the gaps. Thanks.
Okay.
Great. I'll take that back. Mr. Chairman, thank you. Chief of Staff. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm dancing a little bit without music right now, so forgive me to members of the committee, but I will kick this off. I'd first like to thank Chairman Hairston, as he was so kind with his committee to host us last week. And at that time, the Director of Finance and Chief Development Officer, Jeff Epstein, had an opportunity to share with the committee a conceptual opportunity for consideration by the administration in partnership with council and in partnership with Bedrock and other developers to explore what is being proposed as a tax increment financing overlay district as we look at the opportunities that are plenty when you think of shore to core to shore for Cleveland and its waterfronts. And I think the strong acknowledgement there is its waterfronts, which both have to work together, not just for the central business district, but for the community and, quite frankly, the region on the whole. As the Bedrock team had the opportunity to work with the administration on several components of the public-private partnership that we will continue to pursue as we move forward with our Riverfront Master Plan, we also recognize that the best way to establish the public-private partnerships is to make sure that they focus on the delivery of broad brush public improvements, public open spaces, infrastructure, access to our waterfronts that are necessary to provide the equitable access, most certainly, of which Bedrock is your committed partner with access to the Cuyahoga Riverfront and all of the properties that we own and maintain in Cleveland, but also to find creative ways to pursue the completion of this accessibility through unique financing structures, including the proposed TIF overlay district. This idea really emanated from the mayor and his team, as well as the director and the chief development officer. My colleague, Ms. Sese, our CEO, Kofi Bonner, have experience in tax increment financing overlay districts, as does the state of Ohio, as we see them utilized in other communities, including our friends to the south in Columbus and also Cincinnati. What you're going to hear this afternoon has really emanated out of months of discussion and many more months to come, as we will be back with all of you in tandem with the administration for continued review, negotiation, and approval, of course, as we traverse through what are complex financing agreements, but those that we believe can deliver not only our project, but a multitude of projects across the city.
And Chair, I'm happy to take a moment now that my colleague has given me a minute to settle in. So today we'll mostly be talking about the TIF district and what is required to really see these large-scale investments over, what will be a intergenerational period of development in downtown. But first, just to take a moment to get us familiar with what a TIF district is and how they work to sort of level set on today's conversations. What we're talking about is tax incremental financing, a designated area where property taxes can be generated, particularly what is the increment of that growth and utilizing that increment to finance public improvements. Simple way to think about this is a municipality or any political subdivision puts a tax incremental financing district in place. Over time, that property values within that region or that district increase based on the number of investments that you see in that region. And then the property taxes on any of the increase, right, any of the increment, can be used for eligible public investments and improvements. And that debt can then be used to generate more proceeds upfront. And we'll talk a little bit about what those public investments are. So the kind of investments that we're talking about funding through this TIF district are roads and streetscapes, public parks and recreational facilities, waterways, service districts, environmental remediation, land acquisition, demolition. So this will allow us to purchase additional parcels within that district to create new tax revenues and streams, parking facilities, and then remediation projects. So we can kind of think about the ways in which we would utilize this to increase public value and then also stem additional investment by private partners like Bedrock, who are at the table today. The city's advancing projects to create accessible and equitable development on our lakefront and riverways. We want to be able to capture and leverage the growth of our downtown to benefit more Clevelanders. The most important thing to think about when we talk about this TIF district is we are investing to create incremental gains to then reinvest in the public infrastructure, but for that increment would not be able to make the kind of investments we would need both for public consumption and private investment. Just a little bit of context here on the overlay district. In the past, Cleveland's utilized TIF funds for specific and targeted projects in a confined area, such as a new grocery store or a specific hotel. So you may be thinking about things like, Steelyard Commons, or you may be thinking about downtown in the East Bank. A TIF overlay district varies in past uses in the city because a couple of different things. One, the uses of the revenue public infrastructure were not just confined to the area, but they were for the entire city. It generates revenue that we can invest in multiple modes of infrastructure investment, and it captures the natural property growth from a broad geographic area, not something that is incredibly confined the way that we've seen it utilized in other spaces. And the good news is we see a lot of models for success, not just around the country, but really local, right? So Columbus's downtown has a TIF overlay district that has been really successful in generating about $11 million you can just head just southwest of here, right, and go to Independence, where there's a TIF overlay district that has been successful in a lot of the public infrastructure development that you likely traverse, regularly as you travel the region. Next slide. But it's most important and likely the acute questions that you'll have around how those funds will be allocated. Because funds need to be invested in public infrastructure such as roads and bridges, they'll be used primarily in our case for three purposes. The first, which our partners at Bedrock will talk about today, is installing public infrastructure required to make private investment on the riverfront and on the lakefront. So there's certain things that just simply can't be done, but for investment in our roads and in our riverways. The implementation of our city's parks and recreation master plan. I know that this is important to many of you. You have recreation centers in desperate need of investments in your wards. We know that whether it's from tree canopy to individual parks, we need to do better across the entire city, and this will allow us to do that. And then, of course, it will allow us to invest in the growth of our core, including parks, bike lanes, lighting, and sidewalks. So, if we really want our riverway and we really want our lakefront to be a destination of choice for our residents, and we want to encourage folks to stay and spend time in them, we know that we need to invest in the kind of things that make people feel safe and want to traverse the city. Also important here is that this TIF district keeps our schools whole. The core to shore TIF district will not reduce the current taxes paid to entities which receive a share of property taxes.
Could you repeat that? Because a publication this weekend said that we were giving away the bank. And if I'm clear what you're saying, that we are not, if you could repeat that, any tax entity. And I'm sorry to jump in. I just want to underscore that because that created a lot of questions that I got calls this week. We are not, no public tax entity will receive a reduced amount, right?
That's correct. The current TIF district that is being considered and contemplated today does not reduce the current taxes paid to entities which receive a share of property taxes. Thank you, Councilman. How much will it generate? Well, I'm sure you would love to be hearing from our CFO on this. We have analyzed some of the potential scope given this geography. I'll turn it to my colleagues in a moment to talk about what they anticipate as the baseline. But conservative estimates here at current valuations suggest, and I'm going to ask Deb, $3 million in generated dollars with standard appreciation?
Mr. Chairman, to the committee and to our esteemed colleague, I think Director Abinama would appreciate first me starting with, we have not yet defined fully what the geography of the proposed TIF district will be for the shore to core to shore TIF. That is something that we will continue to work very closely with the Chief of Staff, the administration, and with the council on going forward. But the Chief of Staff is correct. As you start to look incrementally, as we all know, and through the message sent here today as well, our familiarity with TIFs, as we look at parcels, you start to see the generation of potential multi-millions of dollars of investment that can be generated. Again, most important, holding the revenues that are currently collected today by the city and all of the overlapping partners, including the school district whole, based on current market values. It is the incremental growth that will continue to generate the opportunity for additional resources to hit the three priorities that the Chief of Staff articulated, not just projects, but the neighborhood projects for parks, recreation, and other eligible public improvements. So as we continue to look at our geography, I will share with you that the Bedrock properties are part of this TIF overlay district in the core to shore, as well as you'll hear from us in a minute, a discussion about project area TIF, which we are more familiar with from some of the more transactional sites. So those two will be blended together. And we look forward to building upon the geography, the mapping with the administration, with the council. spearheaded by our councilman and vice chair here today, and then be able to work together to delineate what will that ultimate area look like, what is the projected resources, and most importantly, how do we deal with the allocation that is to be utilized both for the Central Business Core, our waterfronts, and of course our neighborhoods.
It goes without saying, our project sponsors and partners are familiar to you. Bedrock is a full-service commercial real estate firm with operations in Cleveland and Detroit, and some of their investments have already just this weekend yielded some exciting news. We are confident in their ability to deliver, and we're even more confident that this TIF will not only enable success in public infrastructure, but also enable the kind of investments we know that they're prepared to make. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to our colleagues to talk a little bit about their project area and what they hope to do.
Thank you. Good afternoon again. It's a pleasure to be in front of you again today. Again, I'm Nadia Sisse. I'm the Chief Community Growth Development Officer. I do want to note that the master plan at full build-out will be the largest transit-oriented development in the state of Ohio. The master plan really focuses on a fundamental 3 objectives. It takes into account livability, inclusion, as well as sustainability, with specific emphasis on 3 fundamental goals. The first is developing riverfront as well as downtown into walkable, accessible neighborhoods so that we can position Cleveland to be an 18-hour neighborhood. In addition, it leverages sustainable infrastructure, technology, and public spaces as a driver for investments. And more importantly, it also allows us to deliver economic growth in an equitable and accessible manner so that it is available to not just cities of residents, but as well in the region as well. I do want to also say with Bedrock and its affiliated family of companies, we have a great track record with labor and union. We've had the pleasure and the history of working on public-private partnerships that have yielded community benefits agreement as well as workforce agreement, more specifically with the May Company in Cleveland, as well as friends, a family of friends, the Cavs, and their development, where we had a community benefit agreement, but not only did we meet those requirements, we also exceeded them. We also have great track record in Detroit as well. In Detroit, we have 2 community benefits agreements as well, and we also have 3 development projects that are underway. All that is to say that we have the bones and the muscles to not only continue to be a good partner to the city in advancing workforce and small business for equal opportunity, but we also have teams that are assigned specifically to do that. With that in mind, we intend to participate in a variety of workshops or initiatives, internships that currently exist to provide mentorship as well as for small businesses, as well as trying to bridge capital and training as we pursue the development, which is going to be over a 15 to 20-year timeline. In addition, we also want to make sure that we're intentional about procurement with minority businesses as well as female and CSB as it relates to engagement. But more importantly, since we were here in front of the City Council in November of 21 and got the approval, we've been very intentional about how we procure professional services, really trying to be thoughtful about meeting those goals even before we in front of you today. Where possible, would like to explore bundling of construction contracts so we can create opportunities for small businesses and potentially allow them to be in management roles. And the experience that some of us bring from our prior lives, we've been successful at allowing for that to happen. So the goal is to try to replicate some of that as well. We've been doing community engagement since day one. We'll expect to do that as well as this project continues throughout the approval process. We know we're going to be in front of you as many times as possible, and we're prepared, and we have the team to support us through that. We also intend to participate in any funding construction assistance programs that exist and training. But more importantly, we know there's a community benefit ordinance in place, and we'll work with the administration and city council members to execute on a community benefits agreement, and we'll work with the team to make sure it's as specific as it needs to be with some flexibility as we develop a project that just not 1 year, 2 year, but has a 15 to 20 year timeline. I'll now turn it over to Deb Janik to talk about observations and specifics on the project.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, we'll go through this quickly as I've had the good fortune to brief, I think, every council member at the table on the project to date. And I also appreciate the opportunity as the committee and the council considers the ordinance allowing us to move forward with the master development agreement that really sets the stage and tone for the continued partnership with the city as we move our project forward. I think you're all very familiar with the site that we are dealing with, and it certainly is a site that has incredible history for our city, this region, and the state, but also significant challenges as we truly are a city on the hill as we navigate 100-foot drops from Huron Road to the river. And our focus here, as always, is how do we make sure as Bedrock, as we look at our 35 acres of land and our existing facilities, how do we connect the master plan development of the riverfront to the downtown neighborhood itself? Yes, we are one of the largest economic hubs in the state, along with the other large urban districts, but we are, as the councilman reminds us consistently, a downtown neighborhood with 20,000 plus residents, thousands more students. And we want to make sure that this is a project that integrates with the downtown neighborhood and is additive while also providing unparalleled access to the waterfront. As you think about the current conditions of access to our riverfront, it is challenging, and it is generally unattainable due to man-made obstacles, not the least of which are a multitude of parking lots. Of course, we have existing canal roadway, and as you look at the Huron Road Bridge at the 100-foot level, being able to transcend and transition down from the core of downtown to the riverfront requires some ingenuity, some very interesting engineering, and we are very fortunate to have the best in the business, quite frankly, in my opinion, at Osborne Engineering here in Cleveland, spearheading it for us as we move forward with accessibility, leveraging our buildings, including Tower City Center and our sites. As Nadia indicated, as we move forward with this project, this will be the largest transit-oriented neighborhood in Ohio. It will also be one of the largest in the Great Lakes regions. And again, it provides critical shore-to-shore connectivity. The foundation of this riverfront is to provide 12-plus acres of public space, new parks, a river walk, state-of-the-art infrastructure, public accessibility with multimodal transportation and access, new streets, plazas, water access, including a kayak inlet. Again, it is the deliverables of that public space and those improvements that create the foundation for deliverable development sites, the ultimate private vertical investment that will leverage equitable opportunities, as my colleague discussed, job creation, attraction, retention, and development of talent. And along the way, we will also stabilize the federal navigation channel that provides billions and billions of dollars to our economy each and every year as we look to rehabilitate and replace 3,000 lineal feet of bulkhead. Also calling for about 2,000 plus units of residential housing in the project, and this is housing that will include not just market rate rental, but affordable housing, workplace housing, and an additive to the downtown district, much needed for sale home ownership opportunities as well as we proceed. The current programming structure, again, calls for over the course of the next 10, 20 years, but as the Chief of Staff mentioned, announcements about vertical development coming out last week, we are going to start moving dirt on this project in the next 30 days. Again, 12 acres of public open space, new housing, 1.4 million square feet of non-residential investment from retail, entertainment, hospitality, the New Age office, and more. This includes the adaptive reuse of Tower City Center, not only in its status as the grand dame of development opportunities in downtown Cleveland, but the hub of transit, its retail components, and really leveraging Tower City Center for riverfront access. It's important that this project connect to the investments made by this city in the course of the downtown and also along its riverfront, and it is in alignment with the city's Vision for the Valley conceptual plan. Multiple access will be provided, again, with new infrastructure investments, including a rebuilt Eagle Avenue ramp from Ontario down to West 3rd Street. Also, a new canal road that will move closer to the river by about 200 feet. A complete street with multimodal access that then allows enough space for vertical development between the river and the downtown core. We will look to provide three new access points, including what's referred to as the porch, which is an extension of Tower City Center to the riverfront, leveraging it as one of the key arcades in our city, as well as steps from both the east and the west, the Cleveland steps at the Huron-Ontario Knuckle, and the courtyard steps that will be adjacent to the western edge of our property and behind the federal courthouse. It's important to note that this will also include ADA accessibility and compliance, not just meeting state standards, but exceeding state standards. And it will utilize ramping as well as elevator and lifts throughout the project. As I said, again, 12 plus acres of public space. This gives the council the opportunity to see where in the master plan, which was approved by City Planning Commission in May of this year, in its conceptual framework, will include a multitude of different parks, riverfront access, again, stairs, accessibility, plazas, and new infrastructure, all of which, as you can see, is very focused on making sure there is connectivity for all to our riverfront with access upriver in the Vision for the Valley investments, as well as into the central business district. Current site today, which we're all familiar with. Over the course of the next 60 months or so, Bedrock anticipates, in partnership with the City of Cleveland and all of our other public partners, we've met with everyone from the Metro Parks, Cuyahoga County, Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District, NOACA, and more, to deliver 5+ acres of open space and new infrastructure, as well as to launch the investment of up to 1 million square feet of vertical development, which again was announced with the expiration of our first tenants that we discussed last week. Again, this all hinges on bulkhead improvements, which frame the site, protect the navigation channel, and allow us to start to build on the foundation of developable pads. The bulkhead work, again, is anticipated to start in October. We have worked very closely with the Army Corps, who has provided a nationwide permit, and also with the Building and Housing Department, MOCAP, and other city departments to secure our permit to begin that work. Over the course of the next 10 years, our investment looks to expand to 9 acres of public space, and again, based on market absorption, financing availability, continued public-private partnerships and investments, to continue to launch additional vertical investments in alignment with the master plan, including new housing, office, entertainment, et cetera. And as we look to the future, to continue to leverage the partnerships, the investment, and Bedrock's commitment to this community to advance to the vision of 3.5 million square feet. I'm just going to go through a few quick renderings. This is the high-level overview of massing model of the 3.5 million upon completion. Master development overview. I defer to the Chief of Staff if you'd like to take this.
Would love to.
Thank you.
Would love to. Also, just wanted to make sure I bold and underline the original statement through a text I just received from our CFO that the district's shape, its boundaries, and its geographic cover are still being analyzed, which will immediately change the total catchment area and the generated increment. So we'll get back to you on those numbers, and you will see a piece of a legislative request on the size and the shape of the district.
You want me to move to the next?
Sure. So just working through the major tenets of this agreement, really providing a framework for the development itself, including horizontal and vertical development. The horizontal, of course, being that public infrastructure and the sort of slabs required to create those vertical developments, and then delivery of the public benefit and financial structures of the transaction. The public improvements, of course, delivery of accessibility to the riverfront, and then that river walk that was so nicely illustrated by our partners just a moment ago. That's 12 plus acres of public space and parks. And then, of course, private improvements, the creation of a 3.5 million square foot mixed-use destination neighborhood along the Cuyahoga River, of course, which you saw today. And then we really can't express enough that first slide that you saw, that core to shore to core connectivity that we'll be talking so much about. This really isn't one specific project. It's not disparate projects. It is a cohesive vision for the redevelopment of two of our riverways and our core. This master development agreement also really sets the standard for the city and Bedrock to establish a plan of financing of the public improvements. It sets forth a TIF overlay district in which we'll seek, again, we'll seek the boundaries and uses from this team. And then, just setting out school compensation up front to the extent that the TIF will require use of a portion of new taxes. It will keep the current status and the current payments made to CMSD whole. And then what has been really important to the administration, and I know have been the cornerstone of many of the conversations that Bedrock have had with members of council, is setting out community benefits that will be mutually agreed upon and that generally align with our current CBA that I know many of you worked so hard to get codified this year. These include, but aren't limited to, the participation of MBEs, FBEs, and Cleveland area small businesses, and then the creation of a mentorship and protege program, also just exploring opportunities to incorporate the sustainability goals of both council and the administration, and then the preservation and protection of historic and cultural relevance. We know that our communities, particularly our riverfronts, are filled with those, and so being conscious of ensuring that kind of protection. With that, conclude. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, just a couple of things. Just out of curiosity, is this similar to like what Columbus does with commercial tax abatement, or is there some differences with this? Because I know Columbus has their central business district is commercial tax abatement, but are there nuances, or is this similar to what they do in Columbus?
Please.
Mr. Chairman, great question. It is and both to a large degree. The city of Columbus has integrated some commercial tax abatement as well as leveraged both project area TIF financing and, again, have implemented overlay TIF districts both in the downtown and external to downtown, in particular the Easton Shopping Center, where they have leveraged the improvements at Easton to not only complete that project, but they've leveraged tax increment financing from the Easton project for investment in their city neighborhoods, including in the last few years 3 new public parking garages as well. So Columbus has very much utilized those tools in a commingled share, and then been able to advance some of the improvements both in the downtown district and their neighborhoods.
Okay, and between your team and then I know that our policy staff, we really want to, and I know that one of my good friends kind of met and talked with you as well, and we're also trying to make sure that we understand it because I want to educate the council as much as possible. This is only the first step. To my understanding, there's going to be 3 steps, which this is just approving the agreement. And then the next step will be to actually talk about if we may extend TIFs that already exist. There's about 4 or 5. And then the last phase will be individual project TIFs. Am I correct?
Yeah. to the chair, I'll let our friends from Bedrock talk about individual project needs. That's correct. This is the master development agreement that sets the framework up for us to have a formal relationship and discussion with our partners at Bedrock. The second will be the geography. What are the boundaries of that TIF district? You mentioned, is it an extension of current districts? Is it something new and different? That will need to be contemplated by this body. And then, yes, we'll have individual needs. You mentioned how Columbus has been utilizing tax abatements and tax increment structures together. We will need to have specific and discrete conversations about specific and discrete vertical developments as they come. And of course, that will be considered by this body as the horizontal development gets completed.
Okay, because the fear that everybody has and what we are going to be challenged with as a council is to make sure that this district doesn't get created to self-generate dollars for itself, and that we somehow lose dollars that this district would generate that will impair our ability to do neighborhood improvements. And if I'm hearing you correctly, that is not the case with this first component, which is approving the master plan agreement, master development agreement.
To the chair, that's correct. This doesn't contemplate the specific end uses of the finance, of which we don't know the total increment. And I would just assert that one of the most important pieces of the presentation today is outlining the diverse set of uses that this TIF can fund, of which parks, neighborhood recreation centers. And so our hope and our understanding would be, in addition to supporting the vertical and horizontal development in the catchment area, also contemplating the ways in which these funds can help develop our public infrastructure writ large.
Okay. Because that needs to be made clear. That's going to be, I tell everybody that we have to be master interpreters as council people. And if we don't go to our communities and interpret this correctly, then somebody else would create the narrative. And we already have groups of people that are trying to sell the public that we only give money to millionaires. But what these projects do is actually generate more money that come into our city. So I just want to make sure that we protect our fact that downtown pays the bills in a lot of cases. Approximately 60% of our tax revenue comes from the central business district. So I just want our public to understand that this is not what we call in some neighborhoods a self-licking ice cream cone, that this actually will benefit the entire city if we're able to put this together the right way. The only other thing that I did want to make sure that I understood is, why are we only doing just this part? Wouldn't other parts of downtown or other areas, if we structure this like where we did the North Coast Development Corporation and others, why are we just doing it there? Is it because Bedrock owns most of that land and the other parts are public land? Why are we only just doing this area? It's just out of curiosity. And that might be a chief or anybody else question.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, thank you for the question. Again, the master development agreement allows us, under consideration today, with approval by the committee, and we hope the council tonight, allows us to then execute on the development agreement, which will drive the deliverables, including the to-be-negotiated and considered financing agreements, as well as the community benefits agreement. Within that, as you think about the three legs to the stool as we advance the project, it would include the overlay TIF district proposed to be determined with mapping of inclusivity throughout the central business district, an area that, as the chief of staff indicated, would be worked through with both Chief Epstein, Chief Abinama, as well as the council. That district could then benefit not only incremental improvement dollars in the shore-to-core-to-shore initiatives of the CBD, but also be utilized for investment and improvements in public infrastructure, public space, public parks in any neighborhood through Cleveland. It's a very unique tool in Ohio, and again, Columbus and Cincinnati have maximized those opportunities. We now have an opportunity in Cleveland. From Bedrock's perspective, consideration of the project area TIF would be the generation of increment off our vertical investments, not just the land, which would be included in the overlay district, but then the individual sequential investments of the projects, similar to what was announced last week as we explore with our tenant potentials from the clinic and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Those project TIF area agreements will be back in front of this body with every measure for approval. And then, of course, any TIF extension districts, which Chief Epstein reported last week, would also be coming to the council for approval. So we have a number of additional ordinances and considerations. We look forward to being in front of you often over the course of the next several months, and certainly as we continue to build out the project. But without hesitation, it rests on conversation, community engagement, collaboration, and the approval and support of the administration and the council before we can move forward.
One last question, but Joe and our team or anybody over there, could we see if we get a duplicate of what Cincinnati and Columbus's agreements look like? And you may even be able to work with the Bedrock folks or the administration if they already have one in place. But if we can get a copy of those two, we'd love to see what those two agreements look like, just so that we can compare and make sure that we follow what they're doing.
Yeah, and to the Chair, just for clarification, copies of their master development agreements?
Yeah,
or
their master
TIF?
developments agreements, so that we could kind of have a sense of how that looked in other cities. And I think, does Detroit have one too, Ms. Nadia?
We do, but not at the TIF overlay. It's very project specific.
It's very project specific, so
And-
this overlay is more specific and kind of unique to Ohio, not your Detroit product.
No, they have a DDA that's the equivalent of the downtown.
Okay.
That is an agency that exists. It's called the DGC that collects all the increments and allocates to certain projects, but it's slightly different.
Okay, great. Thank you. I am going to turn this over to Anthony Hairston, Carrie McCormick, Jasmine Santana, Mike Polensek.
Mr. Chair, I'll respectively defer to other members, and I'll
Okay, you'll close us
move
out?
to the back end.
Okay, great. Councilman Carrie McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate that we had a robust conversation in the Development Committee on this, and I want to thank the Bedrock team for all their hard work and dedication to this really exciting project, and to the Chief and the Mayor's administration as well. Mr. Chair, I always want to center this, is we're talking about gnarled up private land right now that the public has no access to along our riverfront. I've said this from the day I started on council, and will say it to anyone who listens. We have all this waterfront that our citizens, our bosses, our residents have no access to, be it the river, be it parts of the lake, and that is morally unacceptable. So I'm really, really excited to see this movement, both here on the river as well as on the lakefront, to ensure our people have access to the waterfront for once and for all. And it isn't just, private property or, fenced off with a 400-acre airport that we subsidize with taxpayer dollars, yet our citizens have no access to. That'll be for another day. So I think we need to really center that as we're talking about property along the river that our people have no access to, and converting it to a space that leads with 13 acres of public space for everybody and anybody to utilize the riverfront, whether you're a lifelong city resident like me or you're visiting town to see the city. You'll have access to, you'll be able to utilize, you'll be able to enjoy. So I'm really excited to see this agreement move forward. I will also say two other notes. Number one, Mr. President, we have seen plans on plans on plans on plans in this city. So it's exciting to see a structure that actually has the potential of happening. And I think that that's one of the major differentials here, is that we're actually working not just on nice pictures, but also on how do we put the structure in place to get there, to get to that finish line. And I think that the approach that we're looking at right now is really smart. I realized that there was commentary earlier on, but listen, one thing I've learned in this business is it's easy and lazy to be a critic. It's a lot harder to do the work. So I'll just leave that where it's at. But Mr. President, I think I'm really encouraged by this approach in saying that we are going to take the value add of the downtown neighborhood to help support the public infrastructure, not only in the downtown neighborhood, but neighborhoods across the city. Not taking any existing tax revenue out, but saying, hey, we know that we're going to be investing a lot, property values are going to be increasing. How do we leverage some of those dollars to invest in public infrastructure so that our casino revenues aren't touched, so that our general fund isn't touched? Those critical funds that pay for the day-to-day services in the city of Cleveland are held harmless. So I think that this is something that other cities have done well before us. We're late to the game. I think this is an approach that we should embrace, to say, how do we leverage these dollars? Let's be honest, if these projects don't happen, those dollars don't exist. So, I mean, we are talking about a situation here where if we do not figure out a way to get this project over the finish line, unfortunately, whoever in 20 years is in this seat is going to be talking about another plan that never made it over the finish line. So, again, Mr. President, I want to thank Councilman Hairston, who has been the key person in making sure that this is not only successful, but that centers community benefits on our side of the table. Want to give him a shout out for that. I know he's been neck deep in this. Again, with the team from Bedrock and the mayor's administration, for actually putting forth a plan that can get done. And how many times have we heard in our community meetings and otherwise, this looks nice, but is it going to get done? I mean, we hear that over and over again, and I'm excited that we're talking about a real plan, an innovative financial model that holds Mr. and Mrs. Smith in our communities harmless when it comes to these critical funds that we deploy every day to provide services, unlocks new value that would not happen if this project doesn't move forward, and also, again, brings our waterfront open to the people, which right now, the lake and the river in so many places, our waterfront is not accessible to our people, and this is an opportunity to make that change. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. All right, Councilwoman Jasmine Santana, then Councilman Mike Palencic.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I will be brief. So through the chair, and I know Chief Davey wasn't here, I know last week we heard this through DPS, but I left home just really obsessing about my comment to Chief Epstein. And it's the more I talk to residents, the more that my comments becomes a reality, right? And what we know is development is great, but it also affects our communities. My area is less than 3 miles from downtown area. And I just confirmed that I have 38% owner occupancy. And while you guys did a great job from what you shared in Detroit, I'm really worried about waiting on a plan for neighborhoods that are close to downtown that will be impacted by displacement and gentrification. And so I'm curious to know through the chair, Chief, I don't know if you've talked to the mayor, while we're working on this plan, and I know this is going to take time because you guys are still going to raise money, you're still trying to figure out community development, can we work on a plan, working with our local banks, or I don't know what it looks like, community development, so that we could ensure that residents that have been in our neighborhoods for many years are not impacted by even just the media putting the news out there of what downtown is going to look like, right? Because developers are like sharks in our neighborhood. And just one example I'm going to give, it just happened this weekend after we had our DPS meeting. Clark Fulton neighborhood is being targeted by with residents owing $3,500 of tax dollars. Stockyard neighborhood, they owe $40,000 in tax dollars and they're not being prosecuted. But Clark Fulton for $3,500 are being prosecuted and already going into foreclosure. So I'm already seeing the impact of just news, the news of development happening in our lakefront and downtown. So I'm just curious to know. It's a comment, but also I really want you to hear and listen to me that this is really going to impact my neighborhoods that are 3 miles out. If we could really get in front of this and create a plan, I would really appreciate that.
Of course. Through the chair to the councilwoman, thank you for your comments. You'll know that prior to joining the mayor at City Hall, I spent the 4 years previous at the Fund for Economic Future, focused specifically on building a community investment fund with Metro West and Ricardo Leon, aimed directly at stopping what we know is the targeting of neighborhoods by predatory and out-of-state landlords. First and foremost, I think that this is the first step in that process. The Master Development Agreement creates a plan and a framework for development that frankly, whether it's our trusted partners at Bedrock or anyone else, gives us an opportunity to hold a development partner accountable to what we think is critical. And the good news with the development partner that we're contemplating today is that they have been eager and committed to understanding what the specific community benefits that the City of Cleveland and Council want to drive, and codifying this arrangement gives us a formal way to hold each other accountable to those goals and the desires. So I think that really what this council is considering today is the first step in that. Second, pretty excited about the comprehensive and frankly aggressive package that the administration put out last week against predatory landlords. We know that this is a problem, acutely a problem in your ward, but a problem across the city. We are going to get it right on code enforcement. We are going to get it right on holding folks accountable, and we will be litigious. And so stay tuned and more to come on that, and we look forward to engaging on the ways in which the community benefits that are registered from the TIF overlay district can be invested in people and neighbors.
Got it. And I would just add, I did meet with community development, and I found out less than 2% have they allocated to Ward 14 around housing. And so I was very stunned with that number. And then additionally, I would just add that it's not just developers, it's county submitting these lists of properties. So that makes me a little bit, even more worried about the process. But anyhow, I will yield. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilman Mike Valencia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, honorable colleagues, and it's good to see Deb. It's always here. I wanted to dovetail on the Council President, Councilman McCormick, and Councilwoman Jasmine Santana, because they all touched on various issues. One of the things that what I don't understand, and I guess I'm asking more internal questions of myself, with the Master Development Agreement and the overlay district. Is the overlay district just the area along the river there? That's what I'm not clear on. Because I've gotten calls from some other property owners downtown who somehow believe that the property taxes they're paying are going to go to this project. So that's what I don't understand. You had your one of your original PowerPoint slides up there showing the area along the river. Is that what we're talking about, that area?
Mr. Chairman, why don't we?
The one before. There was one. Go back to the original, very close. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. It's one of your very first slides.
It's the one that contemplates shorter quarter.
Gotcha.
Right back there, right there. So the dark blue, is that what we're talking about?
Mr. Chairman, to the councilman, the dark blue references Cuyahoga Riverfront Master Plan, represents Bedrock's properties in the Central Business District along the riverfront. The shore-to-shore overlay district will incorporate those properties plus more in a geographic region to be determined throughout the Central Business District.
And is that what's in this piece of legislation?
Through the chair to the councilperson, just a quick amendment, and then I'll answer that question. The slide that we're currently looking at articulates what we would define as core to shore to core, which are a number of disparate projects that are not connected to the master development agreement that you are considering today. This is an illustration of how all of the investments summarize to a broader economic development plan for our riverfront, downtown, and lakefront.
Okay.
The master development agreement today also doesn't contemplate what is the TIF district, which will come back to this body on a separate occasion.
Okay.
What is contemplated in today's packet is specifically setting out the framework by which Bedrock and the city of Cleveland agree to enter into development planning together.
So you said there, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Davey, you said there's, or whoever, possibly 3 more pieces coming back before us?
Mr. Chairman, to the councilman, that is correct.
Which then would include that quote-unquote geographical area?
Mr. Chairman, to the councilman, that is correct.
Because if that's the question, so if I'm on East 4th or West 6th or 55 Public Square, that's the question. Are their taxes going to be diverted, the increase in their taxes or whatever, the property valuation, is going to be diverted to the Bedrock property along the river? That's, I'm telling you, that's out there. That is out there, because I've had calls to that effect. So I think that's something we're going to have to really be very mindful of, because then it ties into this whole thing, which I still can't get my arms around. If we're going to create this TIF, and I was here when we created TIFs initially, and I think some have worked very well, and I think some have not worked so well. That's looking at the projects. But I still don't see how by TIFing something downtown or the Bedrock property is going to benefit Glenville or Collinwood. See, that's why I don't see the connection. I heard you say it, but I don't see the connectivity.
Yeah, through the chair to the councilman, at your first point, what we anticipate putting in front of this body from a municipal perspective, the next conversation that this council will have with the administration on the TIF district will be the TIF overlay district. So the shape, the size, the geography,
right,
and then the number of things that we may choose to allocate the increment towards. From the Bedrock perspective, and I won't speak for them, but from the Bedrock perspective, the next things that you'll begin to see from them are on the individual vertical development side. Following the initiation of this master development agreement, what we will look forward to doing with council and council leadership is articulating what community benefits that we both want to see out of this individual project through the master development agreement, and the use of that to X incremental financing, which needs to come at a different time. So let's answer together what those investments will be in the neighborhoods.
Okay, and I'll look forward to that discussion, because if my gut and what my collective history tells me here, I don't see, you're going to have to really, it's going to have to be written in someone's blood that we're going to TIF property downtown, and somehow it's going to benefit the outlying neighborhoods. Okay, I have yet to see it. I have yet to see it in my time here. So I'd be interested to see what that new model or that new philosophy is as we move forward, and I'll look forward to that discussion. The last thing I wanted to mention is, obviously, I've talked to people in Detroit. I have family up there, and I see what has transpired in Detroit. And there has been a close connection or connectivity to assisting people who want to engage in mortgages in the city. And I want to say that, Mr. Chairman, that we all know the East Side specifically is being redlined. Is being redlined like I've never seen it before. And I grew up there. So as we go forward, I know that Quicken Loans and Rocket Mortgage and all that is connected to the Bedrock family. And that's going to be a big issue with me as we move forward. seeing how we're going to start to see some connectivity in our neighborhoods with regard to providing mortgages and rehab loans, et cetera, to our residents. That's a great issue, big issue with me and my constituents. And the last point, because we got other things here, the comment was made, and I don't know who made it here at the table, that this is a 20-year endeavor. 20-year endeavor. I got to tell you, be honest with you, I don't think we have 20 years. I don't think we have 10. I'm going to be very blunt about it. And I'm the senior member here. In the last decade, we lost the equivalency of 2 wards, have disappeared. I see nothing coming out of the Census Bureau that tells me our population has stabilized. Nothing. So if we think we're going to have this grandiose plan and somehow it's going to take hold in 20 years, I got news for you. We better figure out how to get things done as quickly as we can, because the clock is ticking. The only thing that's saving us to a great extent on the east side of the city of Cleveland at this point, that mortgage rates are back up to 7%. If they were below what they were there for a long time, you look at the black middle class that is bailed out of the east side of the city, not just into the outer edge of Cuyahoga County, but now out from my neck of the woods, from Glenville, out into Lake County and beyond. If we can't collectively figure out how to re-entrench and give people hope in this city and jobs and opportunity and better education and better safety, all the quality of life issues, the prospects don't look good. So I want to reinforce, Mr. Chairman, and my colleagues, if anyone thinks that this is a 20-year plan, good luck. Good luck. It better be the maximum better be 10 years or less if we're going to really try to stabilize this city, because we are in a very precarious situation. None of us know how this economy is going to go. Nobody knows who's going to be in Washington. I think, but my own belief, you'll never see ARPA funds again. The handwriting's on the wall. We either make this town work, and for some reason, I can't understand why it can't work. We should be a manageable city. We're under 400,000. We have a lakefront. We have cultural institutions second to none. For some reason, we can't get it together here. We got to figure out how to get it together. And companies like Bedrock and other major companies, you can make it happen if you want to make it happen. Jimmy Haslam can make it happen. The Dolans, Dan Gilbert, they can make it happen if they want to make it happen. So it just can't be like this. You got to be partners with us, and we got to make it quick, and we got to make it meaningful. And our residents, and when I keep hearing about MBE, FBE, Cleveland, I heard that stuff so many times, it gags me. It never happens. It never happens. You have an opportunity to make it happen. You really have an opportunity to make it happen here if you want. But don't talk to me about 20 years. I don't want to have to stay around another 20 years to see it happen. Okay?
You be here.
Mr. Chairman of the Council,
you got to make it happen soon. Okay? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. And I was going to say, if you here for the next 20 years, you'll be here by yourself, because I won't. All right, Councilman Harrison, you want to close this out, and then we'll go ahead and hear these next few pieces.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief. My colleagues asked some great questions, and the Bayrock team did a great job in administration of articulating what was presented here today. As we've heard that pretty much every aspect of this MDA will come back to this body for approval, from the TIF overlay district to the project TIFs to the well, not the CBO, but we'll make sure we have input in that process, to the disbursement of infrastructure dollars and so forth. One thing to note, that the city will not be issuing debt. As we've seen bonds being issued, for debt for this project, that will not happen from the city. And I don't know if the administration, if not the administration or the development team, would like to briefly make a comment on that, because that's something of the calls I received regarding, is the city going to issue bonds as relates to debt for this project, and that is not the case, correct?
Mr. Chairman, to the councilman, that is correct. We will work with the administration and the council to work to secure approval of the financing, of course, and all the details therein. But as is typical with projects we've seen in the city before, like Bedrock, like a Flat Sea Bank, like a Heinen's 9, traditionally the Port Authority has played a role for issuer, or we would pursue other issuances potentially through state or other partners. But as Chief Epstein reported last week, it is not anticipated the city would issue any debt associated with the TIF.
Got it. Thank you. And also to note, just for the folks who are listening, to the members, that, you know, as we heard from the administration, that the districts are still being worked out, and there's limitations on how large a district can be. And so, you know, there's a lot that goes into this, and the administration and the team will be working diligently over the next, 2-3 months, 2 months rather, to figure all this out, because, you know, there's also a clicking timer that's happening as well, that requires some things to be done sooner rather than later. And so I've committed, along with the council leadership, to make sure that we are working closely with the development team to ensure that whatever comes up, that we can address accordingly and timely, so that way, you know, we can be able to capitalize on the work that is being proposed here in the city of Cleveland. At the last meeting, we referenced this fund. What did I call it? The Neighborhood Development Fund, something like that. Okay. So this Neighborhood Development Fund that we've called this, and I think it's, you know, it's a good thing, because this allows folks to see where these other investments, you know, really be a part of these other investments across the city of Cleveland. That portion of the proceeds will go into neighborhoods, right? And that is to be defined how that process will go. But I think it is a good thing to make sure we put that out, you know, on the forefront instead of on the back end, that people will have the ability to see these dollars, you know, come into their neighborhood at some point. Now, what that percentage is, that's to be determined as well. And so we understand that a lot of the proceeds, obviously, we're banking on the prosperity of this, so you have to invest in to get more, right? But a good portion of it will be used to go into neighborhoods. And so that is one of the good things that I've heard out of this project from the development team. And also the commitment. We all know that there was high levels of commitment from the casinos being built and other projects that have happened here across the city by the Bedrock Company, or the family Bedrock Group and the family companies. They've met and exceeded, you know, participation goals on many projects across the city. And so I'm confident that this group will do that same as it relates to this riverfront project as well. In fact, I think they're going to go even above and beyond what they've succeeded on in the past. You know, you have a great CEO, Kofi Bonner, and a great owner, Mr. Gilbert, who understands this. And I do also have, I think everybody has family in Detroit, I'm sure, right? So, you know, my family in Detroit is saying the same thing about the great work that is happening up there. So we just look forward to our continued conversations and fully support. Thank you.
And just out of curiosity, real quick, as we close out, first of all, I echo what everybody else said, especially what my colleague, Councilman Hairston, just said. This team has really been working intentionally. As a matter of fact, I'm full disclosure, when I first started having the community benefits ordinance conversation, these folks were at the table saying, you might want to look at this, you might want to look at this. And I always appreciate Deb's institutional knowledge, been knowing her for several years, and Nadia as well. So we're really, you know, have a good opportunity here. But just out of curiosity, that was the area where the original casino was going to go, right? Do anybody have any historical knowledge? Because originally, the casino where it's at now was only temporary, and then we were going to move it to the riverfront as a phase 2. Reason that I'm saying this, the reason I'm putting this out there is because I'm giving a little bit of history. I guess I am one of the gray beards on council. The reason I'm mentioning that is because we would have developed this area anyway. Had we done it through it being the second phase in the casino, or had it been this master plan that we're doing now. So this is really just, we were progressing towards this anyway. So just want to give everybody some of that background, okay? All right. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 787-2023 stands approved. Look forward to continue to talk with you guys about this project.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee.
Thanks.
All right, we're going to hear utilities, if they could come up. Just for the full committee, Councilman Casey has said that all of these have been vetted and supported. So just want to make sure everybody knows that. I need one more. Tell Inez I need one more. Mike to come back. Tell Mike I need him to come back, or I need us to get one more. At least if he stays in the room. One second, we have one more council member coming back, so. Ooh. What's up, Commissioner? Huh? Man. Remind me to tell you what I did on my summer vacation. I'm tired. I didn't get a chance to take any time off this summer. All right. Exactly. Kick it over. All right, here we go. Ordinance number 706, 2023 by council members Casey and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Public Utilities to execute a deed of sidewalk easement and a deed of temporary construction easement, granting to the city of Brecksville certain easement rights in property needed for its Oaks Road sidewalk improvement project at the city's Blossom Hill Water Towers property and declaring the easement rights not needed for the city's public use. Director.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. The city of Brecksville wants to build a sidewalk over land that's owned by the Department of Public Utilities, known as our Blossom Hill Water Towers. It has a value of $4,000. We need council's authority in order to grant them this easement, and Commissioner DeGennaro from MOCAP is here with the specifics. We certainly don't need this sidewalk area and want to tie in both the elementary school next to our water tower and the Metro Parks Trail on the other side. Exciting improvement for an important partner of ours.
Awesome. This was heard and vetted in Public Utilities. Councilman Casey has said that past utilities has been thoroughly vetted. Any other questions regarding this? So move. 706-2023 stands approved. Next one is ordinance 767-2023 by council members Casey. Thank you, Ms. DeGennaro. We just know that if you already got it vetted through Public Utilities, we are good place, okay? All right. Ordinance number 767-2023 by council members Casey and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Utilities to enter into various standard purchase and requirement contracts with Itron Incorporated for the purchase of meters and related equipment and services and labor and materials to provide modifications to existing equipment for a period of 3 years, and authorizing the Director to enter into one or more contracts with Itron Incorporated to provide hardware and software maintenance and to upgrade existing software systems for the Department of Public Utilities for a period of 1 year, with 2 one-year options to renew exercisable by the Director of Public Utilities. Director.
Thank you, Chairman. Itron has been our partner in the entire AMR upgrade of all of the meters. It is the brain of the meters that does the reporting out for consumption purposes, diagnostics, status, data from meters and transfers the data to CCMB for billing, which is very important to a water utility. It is a direct award. Itron is proprietary. This is for 2 more years of maintenance and upgrades. Recommend approval. Requesting approval.
Thank you. Do we have any questions regarding ordinance number 767-2023? Seeing no questions, ordinance number 767-2023 stands approved. Next is ordinance number 879-2023 by council members Casey and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the purchase by one or more requirement contracts of concrete, pipe adapters, repair saddles, and accessories for the Division of Water, Department of Public Utilities for a term of up to 2 years. Director.
Chairman, Cleveland Water and the Commissioner need concrete pipe to fix things, both on an emergency basis. We need to have them on storage, but we also need the requirements contract in the event that we need to order them and have them delivered. This authority would give us the ability to do that.
Thank you. Do we have any questions regarding ordinance number 879-2023? Seeing no questions, ordinance number 879-2023 stands approved. Next up is 880-2023 by Councilmembers Casey and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the purchase by one or more requirement contracts of disposal of debris at landfills, transfer stations, or recycle reclaim facility sites for the divisions of Water, Cleveland Public Power, and Water Pollution Control, Department of Public Utilities for a term of 2 years. Director.
Thank you, Chairman. When either of these commissioners or Commissioner Lowry Farrell dig a hole, we have to take the spoils somewhere that is heavily regulated by the EPA. This allows us to go out to seek a disposal facility, including the trucking to take it there, approximately $627,000 per year between all three divisions, requesting authority to proceed.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions regarding 880-2023?
Mr. Chair, just briefly.
Yes.
When that RFP go out for the trucking aspect, can you send that? Because many of us have small trucking companies
Yes, please.
located in our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Yes.
Please, because we
Yes.
really want to make sure those are contracts that we can really make sure that we hit. All right, thank you. All right, next up is ordinance number 881-2023 by Councilmembers Casey and Griffin by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the authorizing the purchase by one or more requirement contracts for various types of electrical test equipment and labor and materials necessary to maintain and repair electrical test equipment, including training when necessary and maintenance for the division of Cleveland Public Power, Department of Public Utilities for a period of 2 years. Director.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. The test equipment includes high-voltage cable test sets for quality control checks and fault location to ensure that outage-causing cable faults are located quickly and repaired properly. This is highly specialized equipment that we need tested on a regular basis to make sure that it's operating properly, and also used in emergency response to make sure the commissioner's employees stay safe and know exactly what they're dealing with. And this is the equipment and labor and training to continue to modernize the equipment that they use to test electrical things,
Okay, great.
appurtenances.
All right, do we have any questions regarding 881-2023? Seeing no questions, 881-2023 stands approved. Please sign on. Last utilities piece, ordinance number 882-2023 by Councilmembers Casey and Griffin by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Utilities to enter into one or more requirement contracts with competitive bidding with ST Engineering Telematics Wireless Ltd. for proprietary adaptive control photo cells needed for LED streetlights and securing lighting fixtures for the Cleveland Division of Police, Department of Public Utilities for a term of 2 years. Director.
Thank you, Chairman. This is the final push on the LED streetlight conversion, the 480-volt issue. This is the fourth iteration. We've tried our best to keep council updated every year at budget, every year in the pre-budget requests, every hearing when it comes to LEDs, every conversation that we have about the 480s. It has been difficult, to say the least. I would be remiss if I didn't thank Executive Commissioner Danielle Graham, who's since coming on to public utility staff, and even when it started, has been instrumental in getting us here to this direct award. Telematics was the manufacturer of the LED fixtures through Pepco since the beginning of the LED conversion. Now they are the holder of the technology, so the 480s, the photo cell, the smart photo cell, will speak to our greater system, and we are hopeful that this engagement will bring us the rest of these photo cells, the adaptive controls, to convert the final 6,000 lights to be done with the conversion. But we do need a direct award. The fixtures themselves are codified. We can buy those at Public Utilities, but because it's a direct award for this specific technology, we're seeking authority to do so and are hereby requesting that.
Thank you. Councilman Polinsky and then Councilman McCormick.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, to the Director and to the Commissioner, has there been anything published recently in any technical magazines, reports as it pertains to the danger, any health danger of LED lighting?
Through the chairman to the council member, not to my knowledge, it's very similar to the AMR system when we have these automatic technologies.
Right.
There are concerns, but to my knowledge, the federal departments of health and communications. These are all safe
Okay,
technologies, but it does happen. And we do a lot of time in communicating back out to our customers, to your residents, to our constituents collectively. And it's a lot more in the AMR system because there's a meter on your home that's telling us how much water you're using in real time. LED is very similar, but this technology reports back to Bright City, which is an application that allows us to more adequately serve.
No, I had received an email, lengthy email, citing potential, harm, and I had never heard that before. That's why I was just wondering, based off of our last committee hearing. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Councilman McCormick.
Thank you. Hallelujah is my first thing I'm going to say here. I'm so excited that this is in front of us. I'm going to sign this one real hard. I'm real excited about this.
Don't scratch.
So, Director, the party on Detroit Avenue, the strobe lights, those are going to be fixed, or we got depending on where on Detroit, we got a little party going on.
It moved
with
over
the
to Clifton a
strobes.
little bit.
Yeah,
for a
exactly.
while,
That one
right?
going on
It
on
was
Shaker and then
Shaker, through the chairman to the council member, that is our express wish, hope, prayer, yes.
Okay. And then, Chairman, to the Director, a lot of downtown has not gotten converted, and I hear that from my residents.
Yes.
Will this piece of legislation address that?
Yes, the downtown, unfortunately, through the chairman to the council member, there is a strong center of the 480-volt fixtures in downtown Cleveland, and then along those long commercial corridors in every direction. And I have to say, even though the 480s have been a pain, the LED conversion process in citywide has had a tremendously positive impact on every single neighborhood.
Oh, yeah.
But we have strong sections of downtown, and then those commercial corridors that we are very, very excited to finally get. And once we can now engage with telematics directly on these 6,000 nodes, and get delivery, then we will keep each of you, very, very informed as to when we're coming, where we're putting them, how we're putting them up, and whether they're speaking to Bright City, which they will.
I appreciate that. And Director, you're on those same emails I am from my passionate downtown residents. So you know exactly what I'm talking about. So that's great news. And to be clear, the concern downtown is just we want them. It's not that it's a bad program. I mean, we're excited about those. My final question, Chair, to the Director. Is the Bright City, is that the technology that identifies outages as they happen? Is that what that
Through the
is?
chairman of the council, that's correct.
And have we integrated that within CPP's protocols, or what does that look like?
We have, however, the connectivity of the entire system is the basis for Bright City, which is still missing 6,000 teeth.
Got it.
So it has to, my understanding, and Commissioner is more than welcome to correct me, because that's how I interpreted it in my brain, is that once the whole system is speaking the same language, yes, Bright City will tell us the street light is out before you have to.
Got it. And then I'm sorry if I missed this. Do we have a timeline on this piece, a rough timeline?
We don't. And through the
Okay.
chairman of the council member, because it's been a little difficult to engage without this, it's been a lot of law department, lawyer speak for the last year and a half. Now we're on the same page, and now we can negotiate. But I did pledge earlier that you will know as soon as I know.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just really excited this final piece is coming.
All right, thank you. Seeing no other questions, that ordinance number 882 stands approved. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to port control, and then we have two walk-on pieces. Yes. Commissioner? All right. And I believe this is the director's first day of finance, or is it the first committee meeting period? Okay. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, before we go in, why don't you just introduce yourself and tell us who you are? Welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I'm Bryant Francis, the new Director of Port Control. Today is my 4-month anniversary. So, thank you. Lots has been going on during that time within the department. as it relates to the complex operation, the vast operation that we have responsibility for. It's been a pleasure. It's been a lot of work and effort. I'm still very much in the process of getting to know members of the team as well as our business partners, but I'm making that effort on a daily basis. In fact, tonight after council, I'll be back at the airport to have a couple of additional meet and greet forums with the employees there. So looking forward to the future. I'm happy to be here and working to move us forward in a positive direction. So thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, let's go ahead and get started with the legislation. The first one is ordinance number 875-2023 by council members McCormick and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the director of port control to enter into an amendment to the lease by way of concession number 67743 with BAA USA Inc., DBA Fraport Cleveland Inc. for the lease, management, design, and construction of a retail merchandise, food, beverage, and service concessions for the Department of Port Control facilities to extend the termination date of the agreement for a period of 1 year. Director.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Committee. Fraport is a master concessionaire at Hopkins, managing the entire airport concessions program through a long-term agreement which will expire in January of 2024. Upon my arrival, I learned we were preparing to issue an RFP for these services. However, the document would not have been able to offer any level of detail regarding the future terminal modernization program, as discussions with our airlines are still underway surrounding a path forward on those improvements. Lack of specification within the RFP would likely have led to limited interest from the concessionaires or weak proposals received with limited risk exposure due to proposers having no clear view of how the future construction will impact operations, as well as how new concession space will be allocated within the rebuild. As a result, I made the decision to seek a 1-year extension to the current agreement, which will give us time to make progress in the design phase for the terminal program. My hope is that we're better positioned by late next summer and can proceed with the RFP. I'm aware that there was language to be incorporated in the RFP related to labor peace, which will still be incorporated in the future document. Should there be other adjustments warranted to the RFP, we will come back to the appropriate committees with those considerations. We maintain a good relationship with Fraport. We have no concerns with extending the current arrangement while continuing to work in parallel on advancing the terminal modernization plans. Christine Gilmartin, the Administration Bureau Manager of Finance, as well as I need to take a breath. Sorry. As well as Dennis Kramer, the Administration Bureau Manager of Planning and Engineering, are here along with me to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Okay, just briefly, we used to have diversity, equity, and inclusion numbers to show what were their inclusion numbers, because I know Fraport in the past has had diverse partners or working with them. Do we know or have any information on that?
Christine.
To the chair, I do not have that information with us. I know Fraport has received awards for small business administration that we have highest in the country at an airport. However, I don't have those numbers on me.
It would be good whenever you guys come to the table to show us DEI numbers with that, because one of the things that we want to make sure is that that's why we changed the name just from being finance to finance, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yes, sir.
I do have personal knowledge that they do have pretty good DBE, MBE numbers. However, it would be good for you guys to have them so that we could always be able to verify and show that as we're justifying taxpayer dollars, okay?
Certainly, Mr. Chair,
All
we'll
right,
keep that
thank
in mind
you.
going forward.
Any other questions regarding 875-2023? Councilman McCormick?
Chair, just wanted to note, and the director did a great job heading off all of our questions that we normally ask him. So this was vetted through Transportation Mobility, unanimously supported for approval.
All right, thank you so much. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 875-2023 stands approved. Please sign on. Next one is ordinance number 877-2023 by council members McCormick and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the director of port control to enter into a lease agreement with Swissport USA for the lease of space located in the passenger terminal building at Cleveland Hopkins International Airport to support its group ground handling and other airline support service operations for multiple airlines for a period of 2 years with 3 one-year options to renew. Exercisable by the Director of Port Control. Director.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Swissport provides, as you mentioned, third-party services such as baggage loading and unloading to several of the airlines operating at Hopkins Airport. The current agreement for its leased space within the terminal began in fall 2019 and is set to expire in fall 2024. Swissport would like to continue operating within this space on the ramp level of Concourse A and has requested this new lease. Swissport has been a good tenant. We are in support of this new lease. We ask for your approval. And once again, we as staff are here standing ready to address any questions you may have. Thank you.
Councilman McCormick.
Fully vetted by Transportation Mobility, recommended for approval.
All right, thank you. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 877-23 stands approved. Please sign on. Next up is ordinance number 884-2023 by council members McCormick and Griffin by departmental request and emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Port Control to employ one or more professional consultants to provide on-call planning services for a period of 1 year with 3 one-year options to renew exercisable by the Director of Port Control. Director.
Yes, Mr. Chair, at any given time, DPC has multiple ongoing projects it is working to advance through the required processes. It is standard practice for airports to have the ability to utilize the services of third-party service providers to assist with those efforts we deem appropriate and which would bolster our ability to maintain positive momentum with workload. On-call services are utilized when and where needed at the discretion of DPC. This is assistance which is at times needed to meet federal standards associated with federally funded or federally eligible projects at both Burke and Hopkins airports. Most recently, we utilized the services of 2 firms in support of these areas of our organization's operations. The term is 1 year with 3 one-year options to renew. DPC would like the ability to utilize 1 or more professional service contractors to provide these services in the area of aviation, environmental and general planning, programming, cost estimating, and other planning studies, activities, and projects as required, should there be multiple proposals that we feel meet and exceed the areas that we are in need of assistance. And once again, we as staff are here to answer any questions you may have on this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman McCormick.
Fully vetted by Transportation Mobility, and we recommended approval.
All right, thank you. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 884-2023 stands approved. Please sign on. Next one is ordinance number 885-2023 as amended by council members McCormick and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Port Control to employ 1 or more professional consultants to provide real estate services for a period of 1 year with 3 one-year options to renew exercisable by the Director of Port Control. And we do have an amendment for this, so I want to make sure we read the amendment into the record. There is no legal objection to this legislation if amended as follows. In Section 3, Line 2, strike RQS 3001, RL 2023-75, and insert RQS 3001, RLA 2023-89. And this was done 9/14/23 by Jonathan McGarry, Assistant Director of Law. Director.
Yes, Mr. Chair. As with the previous item, this item requests the ability to utilize third-party service providers in this instance to address real estate service needs for ongoing initiatives within DPC's purview. These services would encompass support of both airports as well as North Harbor for a list of areas as included in your report. We'd like the ability to retain 1 or more contractors for these services, which would act as an extension of DPC staff on specific tasks of our determination in order to meet city needs, federal standards, and our own deadlines. The term is 1 year with 3 one-year options to renew. And given the expectation that we will soon be launching into the early implementation efforts of the master plan, we think that it is good timing for us to get these services on board so that we are best prepared to undertake what is sure to be an increased workload going forward. And with that, end my comments, and again, offer us for answering your questions should you have those. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman McCormick.
Mr. Chairman, 885-2023 as amended was reviewed by Transportation Mobility and recommended for approval of this committee.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 886-2023 stands approved. Please sign on. Thank you, Director.
That was 885.
885? Oh, 885. Yep. I'm jumping ahead. My fault. All right. Next one is ordinance number 886-2023 by council members McCormick and Griffin by departmental request an emergency ordinance authorizing the purchase by one or more requirement contracts of floor and wall coverings and labor and materials needed to repair and replace floor and wall coverings for the Department of Port Control for a period of 2 years with 2 one-year contracts to renew exercisable by the Director of Port Control. Director.
Mr. Chair, Port Control is requesting the authority to enter into one or more contracts for labor and materials to install, repair, and or replace floor and wall coverings at our numerous facilities for a period of 2 years with 2 one-year options to renew. These materials include carpet, rubber floor tile, ceramic tile, and mats throughout our facilities. There are several areas I've identified and would like to see improvements made within our Hopkins Terminal campus. These include the North Terminal Checkpoint, the Federal Inspection Arrivals area, repairing and replacement of damaged ceramic tiles in the Stephanie Tubbs Jones Gallery area, and select repair and replacement of damaged terrazzo flooring in the ticketing and baggage claim areas. There are numerous flooring projects which require attention but have not been adequately addressed as we have not recently had an active flooring contract, which we are attempting to rectify with approval of this item. And that concludes my remarks. We are here to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman McCormick.
Mr. Chairman, 886-2023 was vetted by the Transportation Mobility Committee and recommended for approval.
All right, seeing no other questions, 886-2023 stands approved. Director, thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
Remember, we really want to work close with the airport.
Absolutely. Likewise.
Okay?
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Next up are 2 resolutions, and I'm going to ask Finance to come to the table. I do want to preface this and give a background on this. I've been very strict about making sure that the administration gets their pieces up in time for by the deadline, which is Wednesday, in order for us to be able to vet them and put it on the calendar. However, law was not able to get these up until after the deadline, unbeknownst to us and the finance director, who unfortunately had to leave. There are a couple of routine pieces that we have that we need to get passed before the end of the month, or we can jeopardize not meeting the deadline for the Cuyahoga County fiscal reporting. And I'll let Mr. Cordick Mr. Cordick and started to call him Mr. Gentile, Mr. Hartley, my favorite.
Compliment.
To explain what is going on. But I have decided to hear these pieces in this committee and refer them to the full body for consideration. They're pretty routine pieces, but I'll go ahead and we'll read them. Resolution number 1020-23 by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request, an emergency resolution requesting the county fiscal officer to make advances during the year 2024 pursuant to section 321.34 of the Ohio Revised Code. I think it might be good for you to explain why they may not have gotten up here, and then also to at least make sure that you let them know why this is an urgent, because we try to keep a pretty disciplined routine over here.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, we have 2 pieces of recurring and related legislation today. The first authorizes the necessity of property tax levies, and the second authorizes us to receive property tax advances from Cuyahoga County during 2024. As you mentioned, the city's budget administrator, Greg Cordick, is here to answer any questions that you may have. And as you also referenced, I think the reason for the delay was just there was a delay in the administrative review process.
And when it goes to administrative review, it goes to law, and law didn't get it up here by the deadline, so we'll be making sure we talk with law, because we want to make sure that we are very disciplined as a body. But we also don't want to jeopardize the city's fiscal or financial position because of a glitch, okay? All right, but Mr. Cordick, did you have anything else you wanted to add to this?
Mr. Chairman, as Director Hartley indicated, this is boilerplate, and we received 2 major remittances of property tax collections every year, once in once in March, and then another in August. And by passing the advance, we receive other advances as well. So there are 2 months, January and February, before our March remittance, as well as another remittance from the county in July. And the more remittances that we have from the county, we're better able to have more of a consistent cash flow, and it's better for projection purposes.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any other questions? All right, seeing no other questions, ordinance number 1020-23, 2023 stands approved. The next one is resolution number 1021-2023 by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request, an emergency resolution adopting the amounts and rates as determined by the Cuyahoga County Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county fiscal officer. Director and Mr. Cordick.
Mr. Chairman, this piece allows us to accept the tax rates as passed by the County Budget Commission and the County Fiscal Officer. There's two components to our tax rates. There's inside the 10 mil debt limitation and outside the 10 mil debt limitation. Our total millage for the city of Cleveland is 12.7, and that number has been consistent with prior years.
Okay, thank you. Any questions regarding ordinance number 1021-2023? Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 1021-2023 stands approved. Please sign on. Thank you, gentlemen. Last one is a council ordinance, and this is ordinance number 1121-2023 by Councilmember Griffin for introduction and for consideration of passage tonight, September 25, 2023, an emergency ordinance to amend Section 1 of ordinance number 1034-2023, passed September 18, 2023, relating to a First Amendment to agreement with iVideo for Cleveland City Council. This is pretty much just our video systems that council is looking at updating. Our Mondo boards and all these things that you see right here, they're outdated. As you can see, the one to the east of us or to the left of us is not functioning right now. Mondo, they're called Mondo. They're already outdated. That's like, I guess that's what happens with technology. So that one over there is outdated. They are going to try to see if they can upgrade that one, but this is an amendment for that contract. All right, you got any other questions with that?
Does the microphones are included? No?
I don't recall, but I will tell you that they are probably about 8, somewhere around there. Yeah. So that is typical new technology. They don't have the big bubble back TVs that might last for about 20 years now. The flat screens get out, they outdated in maybe about 5. Yeah, exactly, you know.
They're 1/4 of a certain person's age.
They're actually too thick.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what this is for. So 1121-2023. Any other questions? Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 1121-2023 will be considered by the full body tonight. All right, thank you so much, everybody, and this committee is adjourned to the full body tonight at 7:00 p.m. Thank you.
Do we have any presentation?
I hope not.